because of inflation, because of teacher burnout. All of those things are objective realities that are not going away. And they're objective realities in the exact same world where AI is developing in leaps and bounds. And I want to emphasize that this AI instruction, AI is replacing the educational layer, the teacher in the classroom. This is not a luxury sci-fi experiment to happen years from now, maybe when computers get good enough. It's a today obvious response to a completely broken labor model. So we've got a scarcity of human experts that are trying to personalize education for millions of students at the same time. We should move teachers out completely of this impossible all-in-one role that we're burdening them with, and basically replace the instructional layer of teachers with personalized AI tutors. And that'll free up all of the adults, especially ones that aren't qualified to be teachers, that now they can focus on the supervision, the behavior, the mentorship, the safety, and the social development. So this, again, it's not sitting a bunch of 5-year-olds or 5th graders inside a warehouse with laptops and like a connection to ChatGPT. This is something that will decouple the teaching element from all the parts that the teachers don't want to do, so that we can basically have something greater than the sum of its parts.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry, MC, I muted you for the typing. Bad juju.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Most people forget that they're doing that. All right. I've dropped the link backstage. There's that actually panel filled up backstage really fast. Thank you so kindly. I've got James with his new membership here at the Raging Tomato. Justin says anyone pushing AI is either a fed or a complete moron. Sam Altman says AI will eventually destroy society, but we are not there yet. Either of you have a quick thought to add into that?
What about cancer research? Is every single person using AI for cancer research or protein folding? Are they a complete idiot or a fed? And just to tack on there, I also believe that AI will eventually destroy society and humanity as a whole. I don't disagree with that, but I feel like we have the luxury of living in this tiny little blip in history before that happens. We're the first and the last ones to maybe get some benefit out of it. So why not extract as much value as we can before it basically melts us all into bone paste to be reassembled by like nanobots into like war weapons?
Fair enough. MC?
You know, that what he said. I don't think that is, I actually don't think it's going to destroy, but I could be wrong. I don't hold that position
Animatrix
strongly.
Too many times.
Fair enough. Tom Carpenter says with a big fat red dono, tomatoes in the chat. You all know it's my favorite color here on screen. He says, Tom told me to tell y'all to send Sarah to #Vegas already and something about a goal. Yes. Every dono that you send tonight, please be sure you write in #Vegas. We are going next week, we're going to go moderate over on a big 1 million subscriber channel, and we're going to have some fun along the way with lots of IRL content coming to you. So super excited. Keep hitting the dono goal so that we can get Mater Nation out there loud and proud. Andy, my favorite philosopher of all time, says, when you say AI solves the 2 sigma problem, you're reducing education to technology, information transfer alone. Is that what really education is?
The 2 sigma problem is just that if you have a 1-to-1 assignment of tutor to student, then that outperforms one student in a classroom where they have to vie for the attention of the teacher. Like that's just an objective way that all public education works now. Even if you only have 5 people in the room, if one person needs help, the other 4 are not getting the active attention. So all the 2 sigma problem is that if you can give personalized tutor instruction to each person, then they will learn more. So it's not just reducing it down to is that really what education is? I'd say education, yeah. I mean, one person can sit down with a book and learn something from it without any teacher around. Technically, that is education, right? You can read a book and learn. So, I mean, the education as a word, I think, is maybe too broad or too vague to start determining whether or not the 2 sigma problem is an oversimplification or not. And really quick to correct you, Sarah, that last message, it didn't say goal. It said go.
Go. Thank you. And to you, MC, any thoughts here?
I'm not super familiar with that particular topic. So
Isn't sigma, does that come from like project management? Like, that's where I'm thinking of sigma. Am I in the same realm?
I gotta imagine that's not, because that's what it sounds like to me.
This was Benjamin Bloom. Benjamin Bloom is the one that had the 2 sigma problem.
Who is Benjamin Bloom?
If you want extra credit, you can go and look up Benjamin Bloom's 2 sigma problem.
That didn't help knowing whether or not that has to do with project management.
Right? Because that was that's where I was going, because the what is it, P, whatever it is.
Well, to be clear, Benjamin Bloom was a American educational psychologist, so that clears up anything. This 2 sigma problem was specifically talking about education. It wasn't about if IBM can train their people up faster by assigning more like senior level devs to their junior level. This was specifically about teaching.
Okay, Ant got me backstage. He said Sigma 6. That's what I was thinking of with project management. Tom Carpenter says, with the big 50, sitting here for my first time thinking, why in the heck ain't these folks hitting the goal, and figured I better move it on up. He's going to move it on up. Yes, he did. And you guys have officially hit your freaking goal. JD comes to the final 50, says hashtag Vegas. Hell yes. And remember, for every hashtag Vegas, Mr. Tom Carpenter will match all the way up to the first 1,000 for this Vegas trip. So keep it going. It's for a good purpose, ladies and gentlemen. And I got geared out. I got shirts with scanner tags on them. I got a book bag with the scanner. We're all ready for Vegas. Shout out to you. All right. And I had one final thought to you, Paranoid, and then I'll bring on our panel. They're all backstage. You mentioned how the teachers burn out after the first 4 years, right? And typically they turn over. Well, the burnout comes not from teaching, but from dealing with all of the other bullshit, right? Dealing with the kids are fighting. There's some crazy ones in there. There's some specialty cases going on. They're tired. They're this or that. But you are actually taking out the main piece that the teachers got into teaching to do. Like, they want to teach, they want to help students learn something, and you're putting them in the very thing that actually burns them out anyways. So not only will you be turning over what MC said is the technology, but then you'd also still be turning over these teachers' aides of some sort as well, because they would still be experiencing the very thing that causes them burnout without the reward of teaching and watching the light bulbs go off for the children, right?
I don't see it that way, because again, it's the imagine it this way, that you wanted to go and work at Walmart and you really wanted to be a cashier, and they were like, sorry, you're going to be the greeter, right? You might get burnout because you showed up thinking you were going to get this one job, and now you have to do a completely different job. So this analogy isn't that you get rid of the teacher and now you force the teacher to do the thing they hated the most. I'm saying you get rid of the teacher entirely. They're unemployed. They go back home. They're watching soaps during the day. And instead you bring people in that want to do the part that the teachers hate. They want to have the personal connection with the kids. Maybe they want to do some of the discipline, maybe make sure that they aren't crazy for that. But it's more about hiring people that want to do the job that you're hiring for, and not trying to swindle someone into a job of like, you're going to be a teacher, you're going to change these kids' lives. Oh, and by the way, you're really just going to be a glorified babysitter that gets yelled at by parents all day and you're going to hate it. You might be able to say like, hey, we've got a position open. Do you like to get yelled at by parents? Do you like to discipline problem children? Maybe no one applies to that, but at the very least, you're not hiring someone that's capable of so much more and then completely stunting them and tying their hands behind their back. back. So in my mind, it still solves the problem. It doesn't work out better for the teachers, because now the teachers are like, oh, I hate all the classroom management stuff. Thank you for bringing people in to do that for me. And you're like, well, actually, this is your last day too. We don't need you at all because you don't like the stuff that we need.
And I'll add in one fun fact. They actually have teachers' aides that come in, at least at our schools here. We are out in the county. I feel like we might be a little more spoiled here, but for every one teacher, there are 2 aides that run in and out between the classrooms and help during all of these teaching sessions and so on and so forth to help assist with that. So that problem has already been resolved. And now you're just replacing the teacher with AI in your aspect. And shout out to 5 Leaf Clover giving out 5 Paranoid American memberships. All right, gentlemen, are you ready to meet your panel?
Can I answer one other question that came up when we were talking way earlier? Someone said,
Sure.
Who do you sue when AI goes wrong?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, the school board, same as you would now. There's the answer.
The what? The school board?
You'd still sue the school. If something goes wrong inside of a school, when there's a human teacher involved, you sue the school. If something goes wrong when AI is happening in the school, you sue the school. I mean,
okay. and then who does the school fire?
Well, it depends on what went wrong in the AI. Did it touch somebody inappropriately, or
no,
did
it taught that the mustache man was the good guy? Mm-hmm. Who do you fire then?
Is this a homeschool situation?
No, none of this was the debate. It was about homeschool, really.
So this is a public school. If the AI starts teaching that the mustache man was a good thing, then if this is open source, then this can be audited by the entire country. And it is basically a national problem, not a localized, this happened in one little podunk school and therefore doesn't get resolved.
But your proposal was that each individual school curates their own information too.
Well, it was
back and forth. Which way is it?
The potential. The potential is that each school could curate their individual lesson plans they want to. But for example, Common Core is no longer a national standard. But if there were a Common Core style initiative, now there's like a national lesson plan, right? A national curriculum. So it wouldn't necessarily be individualized. The point is that AI makes the possibility for either. It can be either hyper focused on that teacher and that class and that student, or it can be this is for everyone across the entire nation.
Okay, so now you go and you fix it, you put the guardrails on so it doesn't teach that mustache man was good, but now next semester it teaches that Pol Pot was good. You didn't think to put the guardrails on for that one yet, and there's a never-ending list of things that you aren't going to necessarily know because the AI doesn't have the moral compass to know, you know what, I should not be teaching that's the good thing.
Counterpoint, the exact same criticism exists for human teachers as well.
Can fire those teachers and you can say, no, you're
then
not
we get
curriculums.
Then we get curriculums, right? And oh goodness. All right, let's get our panelists up here. We're gonna have some big fun with who's all back there. Let's go, gentlemen.
He knows he get crushed.
All right, MC's over there talking shit. That's what he's doing.
Oh, I'm talking to my chat.
Caught.
I muted your music. I didn't know if it was copyrighted or not, so
No, I wouldn't do that to you. I wouldn't do that to you, MC. Come on now.
I just don't know.
They just missed out on all that badass music that everyone backstage dances to and like rocks out to back there, and you just took that away from your audience.
I don't know. The
I'm
angry
almost-
American
I'm-
was dancing. I saw
I'm
it.
almost.
I would not
I'm
deprive my
almost.
audience of any of the information or the entertainment that we provide here. So maybe you should leave MC Tunes channel and come over to the Paranoid American channel. Uncensored, unedited.
I love you both so much. It's hilarious. This has been a fun night, has it not? All right. So Dale was backstage, so he's going to go up first. And ladies and gentlemen, the rules of open panel Q&A, if you are new here, I don't think anyone is, but we are going to go in a round robin fashion. That means one at a time. One person gets to ask a question or two, get a little bit of back and forth between either or both of our panelists. That means everyone else on the panel is muted and quiet and not interrupting the person's turn so that they can have their time with the panelists. Now, if you want the crazy, you want the gauntlet, you have purchased it. It is on board and ready for kicking. So once we get through the open panel Q&A, we will move into full gauntlet mode, which is open mic, open floor, still in some form of respect, but we'll get there when we get there. So you are all going to still have some fun. Dale, would you like to ask your question or comment, sir?
Well, hey, Miss Sarah, I'm glad to be here. I ain't never been on nothing like this before. I talked to my brother Tom. He told me about y'all, and I figured I'd come in here. He said, you know that Miss Sarah, she's a pretty little thing, and she's smart as a whipper too. And I got to tell you, one of them's true. And here's the thing. Here's what I want to say. I think Mr. Paranoid American over there, he ain't got things figured out. Because where I grew up down there in the hollers of West Virginia, I mean, we had all kinds of things we had to deal with. Well, one time I had this dog named Danny. And they asked you about your first pet's name. That's Danny. That's my pet. And he'd wander off in the woods, went running around all the time. He went out in the woods one time and was gone for over a week. And then my brother and I was looking out the window in the shack we lived in. That's because that's where we lived. We lived in the shack. And so I was looking out that window and I saw that dog coming down the road. And my brother went running out there to get him, and he picked him up because he was hobbling as he's coming down the road. And when he got him back to the house, we noticed his paw's gone. And I don't mean his daddy. I mean his paw. And so we figured he must have got caught in a trap somewhere. They got a lot of them fox traps out there. They put that fox urine out to lure them fox in. And that's what made me think of this story, because that's kind of what Paranoid American did here tonight. He put that fox urine out and lured us all in there with the big prompt, and then he scaled it all back so it was something he could support. But here's the thing. The issue is that he came back and we went hunting in them woods. We went looking around till we found that fox trap, and we found his paw. Figured that's what it was. He chewed himself out of there, you see. But here's the thing. My daddy, we had a farm up on the hill, and on that farm, we had grown all the crops that we'd eat. And them deer's coming in there and eating our food. And they kept coming in there and eating our food. They had the whole freaking woods to eat, but they come and eat our food. And so my daddy took Danny up there and he chained him up to a tree. And after he did that, my brother went up the next morning so he could feed him his dog food. And he came running down that hill. He was screaming and hollering. We didn't know what in the world he was talking about, but he's just yelling. We had no idea what was going on, but he come down that hill, and we finally got out of him. He said, "Daddy's dead." We went up there, and sure enough, he was laying there on the ground. Turned out what happened is that tree my dad chained him up to got hit by lightning that night, and Danny got electrified. Well, what's the moral of this story? Moral of this story, you can chew your foot out of a trap, but the lightning's still coming for you. It's still coming for you. You ain't going to escape. So here's the lightning, Paranoid American. I got to ask you a question. Simple question. Do LLMs even know anything?
I think you'd have to define what you mean by no. But if we're talking about could it hold a conversation as well as a human, I believe so. You can have a conversation with it. Now, if you want to get some true insight, some creative new thoughts that maybe you never heard before, then it becomes a little bit harder to debate. But I think that we are far beyond the Turing test, which is whether or not I can tell I'm talking to a human person right now. I think we've blown beyond that. So yeah, I mean, an LLM can know something in terms of that you can ask it questions and have a full conversation about it.
Well, those of us back here in the holler of West Virginia, we don't put no clout in that Turing test. That Turing test, crazy old thing, just saying, oh, does it feel like a human to you? Well, my goodness, a dog can feel like a human to you when it comes up and licks you, especially if it licks you in the right spot. But anyway, the point is that when you're trying to figure out if an LLM actually knows anything, you got to ask what's in the LLM. Do you even know what's in an LLM? Do you know what's in it?
Mostly it's mathematical weights that determine the next probabilistic action based on input and output, and there's
So there ain't no words in there.
There are not words in there. It's usually it's mostly numbers, correct?
It's a bunch of, there's like this, freaking token dictionary out here, and then there's these embeddings that are in there and all that stuff, and then they do this high vector mapping thingamajigger. And then what they end up with is they get this whole big neural network, they call it, because they trying to model it after a human brain, right? We got our neurons and we got our synapses between our neurons. And so they try to figure out how to model all that stuff together, and they try to make it look like you and like me. But thankfully, I think they'll make it look more like me than like you, because that way they'll have a few more neurons. But the point is that the reality of these LLMs is they don't know anything. But the worst thing is, and I don't think most people have even realized this. I haven't heard y'all hit on it all night long. LLMs don't even know they don't know. And that's one of the most amazing things as humans that we have. We have the ability to instantly know that we don't know. For example, if I ask you right now, what was the name of my second dog? Your immediate response is, I don't know. But an AI would say, well, given the context of this conversation, I'd assume your dog was probably named something like Hobart. Just hallucinates it and makes it up, because an AI don't know how to say I don't know. And they still don't today. These ones that you say so highfalutin and good, they still don't know how to say I don't know. We got to put harnesses around them things in order to rein them in, because otherwise they're going to go all crazy on us and hallucinate all day long. You agree with me? You know what I'm saying is true.
I want to thank Sarah for not putting me up against Dale. He would have absolutely wiped the floor with me versus what MC Toon was like an underhanded softball pitch at like a little league game. So
well, I respect that. I respect that. I just got to say one more thing, and then I'm going to pass it on, okay?
Dale, go ahead.
Just one more thing. I'm going to pass it on. And this is the last thing I want to say. I just want to say, here's my prediction to you, Paranoid American. AI is going to be ready to replace you before it's ready to replace teachers. And that's all I got to say. I'll pass it on.
Dale may or may not be an AI tech expert that we've hosted here before for an interview.
Dale, I can't tell you that you're actually right on 3 counts, because I'm an artist, a musician, and a software engineer, and AI has replaced all 3 of those positions within the last 3 or 4 years. So you're not wrong.
Damn.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. He's trying to create more jobs for them, replace all those teachers with AIs, and then tech geeks like him and my brother, they can go in there and they can just take on that stuff. They got more work to do now because we fired all the teachers, so we got more computer people we need. That's what I'm saying right there. So.
Fair enough. Spin, are you passing on your turn, sir? All right, question to you.
So, Paranoid American, meet the angry American. All of the jobs that you are advocating for, or that you have seriously advocated for by a fictitious computer screen, what do you do with those people? The only thing that I could really come up with is let them be the security guards.
Do you mean the teachers that are now going to be unemployed?
Correct.
I guess I'm still an optimist at heart, by the way, which is why I'm a conspiracy theorist, because I always hope and expect the best, and then I find out the reality. But in my optimistic mind, the transition would be that good teachers can then become profitable tutors, where now all of a sudden they enter the market as free agents, and people that are willing to spend for a good teacher that can actually tutor a human being to tutor their human student, now they're able to do that. And that can even be scaled out where, again, high ideal optimism here, but you could become like an online teacher celebrity where people fly their kids out to be tutored by you, or you fly out to see them because you have a specific way of teaching that subject that just clicks with people. Because as many of us have had bad experience with teachers, I think at least we've all had at least 1 or 2, or hopefully more than just 3 great teachers. And those teachers, sometimes it's random, like in just some podunk town, you've got someone that taught math better than anyone that I've ever met in the rest of my life, including college, right? Now, all of a sudden, if you can give them wider exposure, they can be making far more money and be causing far more advancement in kids that actually care about it, not just people that happen to be geographically lucky and got them. So I don't think they just immediately are homeless. I think that they can actually elevate what they're doing. Now, it does eliminate all of the bum teachers, and I don't care what happens to them.
Mm-hmm. So then you would agree that a tutor is technically a teacher?
Yes, I would. I would agree that a tutor is a teacher. They are actively
okay. So
teaching
why
somebody.
the fuck would you get rid of the teachers to substitute them with a teacher that essentially would be a draw on the American taxpayer, because the simple fact that not everybody can afford a tutor. So you're so let me finish my rant for a second. So you're going to put the technology into a public school that can barely afford the bills to create another bill on top of another bill, then fire all the teachers to replace them with a teacher that people on a fixed income can't afford, which would become then a burden on the government or the local government, because the great United States says that all kids have to go to school. So now you are creating a bigger problem than solving the little problem. That's what you're advocating for. And very honestly, I don't believe that you even believe the shit that's coming out of your mouth. I believe your satire. I believe that you have this ideology that computers can do it better than a human being. And I'm telling you, when I went to paramedic school, a computer cannot teach me how to stick somebody with an IV. They can show you their ideology, if you will, and I'm using that word as a semantic, right? But there are proper ways to do things. So, and the other thing that I want to say to you, are you advocating for collegiate level courses to become AI and take the human factor out, other than somebody sitting in front of an iPad or what the fuck is it, the Android tablet or whatever, and just have somebody teaching what they get off the internet, because AI is internet based? I think you would agree with that.
So you got 5 different things that I'll respond to in short order here. First of all,
please do.
I'm incredibly sarcastic, and it's not always easy to tell if I'm being serious or not. For this one, I 100% am being serious. I do believe this with all my heart. I know that it would be incredibly experimental, but I do believe it. And if anything, it's less to do about satire and more about a chip on my shoulder about how horrible of an experience I had in public school, which would bring me to my next point, in that, just to clarify, I am not advocating this for trade schools, for college level. If you went to paramedic school, this is and I also specify this was not like to replace a homeschooling, right? If you've already got a parent willing to do homeschooling, you don't just replace that out of principle. This is specifically about public schools where you've got one teacher and multiple students in each classroom. So, your paramedic school, I agree with you. You're not going to replace that with AI. About the money, I firmly do believe, even though I don't think we ever came to any sort of consensus, I fully believe, and I can, if we want to spend enough time on the math, this saves money. It does not spend money. You free up all of the different teacher salaries. You basically get that paid back in full the first year that you have a classroom worth of AI models. It's actually going to be hosted in somewhere else. It won't be like in the classroom itself. After the first year, now you're making money. You're saving another 3 to 4 years of teacher salary across the school board. So the money's already there. The technology's already there. This is not spending money that doesn't already exist. You mentioned the tutors. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Sarah, can I respond to just one of those things before I forget my thought?
Yeah,
Thank you.
sure. Thank you.
Okay,
Pyramid.
so all the money you're claiming it can save, what I don't and what I haven't heard really is the cost of the maintenance, the upkeep. We know children are clumsy. I'm going with the what if. What if a child, granted, destroys the product, whether it be a tablet or whatever the semantic would be, right? There's cost to that. Then you have server, because I guarantee you they're not going to just connect that to the World Wide Web and you can look at whatever you want, right? So there's all of the other costs that would be absorbed by ultimately the federal government, which all I keep hearing on the internet and big box media is how much we're in debt. All of this, in my opinion, would be federally backed if it were to go like this, whether it's public school, private school, charter school, trade school, whatever, because as we know, these schools, whether it's public, private, charter, whatever, have some sort of government backing to keep them afloat, to educate our people. So the drain on having all this technology would outweigh the cost of having somebody making, for semantics, $60,000 for 6 to 7 months worth of school. And the other thing I want to comment on is when school gets out for the year, whether it be May, June, whatever, these teachers, they have their break. They have their, God, I don't have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, God forbid, and go teach a bunch of hellions for 6 hours. God forbid, right? The point is, cost of it, the cost is where the downfall to all this is going to be. The tech. Look, there's many tech firms out there that are trying to push this. I've seen it. I've done the research. I've done my homework. But feasibility, I don't think it's there now. And I did hear you say, let's put an ad up. Do you think Google is going to sponsor all this? Okay, yeah, they're going to sponsor it all, but they're going to make money off of it. They're going to put Roblox and Roblox ads because it's targeted. Wouldn't you agree?
Not necessarily, because the same way that Apple put a whole bunch of Apple 2GS in the school systems that I went to, and everyone grew up playing Carmen Sandiego, and they grew up playing Oregon Trail.
I did it. I did it in computer labs. Right?
For Apple, it was an advertisement for Broderbund. It was an advertisement for these companies, and it's not that you had to pay money. It's just that having that billboard in front of young, impressionable minds is something that corporations will be willing to spend money on, even if it's just, I want you familiar with this logo for OpenAI. If I can put an OpenAI logo in front of every kid for the next 12 years, there are companies that would spend money on that. I'm not saying that that's where this entire argument like operates around, but I'm saying that because there's a very clear objective precedent where the technology, Silicon Valley was like, here's millions or billions of dollars worth of free software and technology because we're trying to plant a seed so that you have brand loyalty when you're old enough to buy your own. That's the version of ad placement. It's not like, to get the answer to this question, insert, a $5 bill or whatever.
I get it. I'm just advocating there is more pieces that you did not hit on that would drive, in my opinion, the cost more than what it would cost to have the actual human interaction. I mean, go ahead.
I'll say I actually did have those considerations, but they're baked in because right now kids already do have Chromebooks. Schools already do have servers. They already do have IT tech admins.
Yeah.
So all of this will be and the scenario.
And
where,
that
like,
was my next point. That was my next point.
Where a kid like breaks something. Well, these expensive servers would be on premises, but they would be in like a locked server room. So unless, you know, your fifth graders have unbridled access to the most expensive room in the entire
but wait a minute.
school,
You're advocating it to be in the classroom. The classroom has unbridled access to the equipment.
No, it is software access. So in the room, all of the computers, all the Chromebooks, these are just terminals that connect to the LLM model that's hosted elsewhere in the school in a place where kids don't have access to.
But I renew my argument, sir. They have
wrap it up, Spin.
Yes, ma'am. They have unbridled access to the terminal, which needs maintenance, which is going to need whatever else.
Already is the case. Kids right now across schools in the entire nation already have those terminals. They have Chromebooks that they have to bring to class. They bring
and
them
they
home.
break them all the time.
Oh yeah, of course they break them on time. But you're not raising a new issue that would prevent AI from being a solution. You're just talking about a problem that already
I probably have about 2 minutes. So McLooney Tune over there, I just have one question. Okay, 30 seconds. I just have one question for you, McLooney Tune. You homeschool your child.
Yeah.
You use a computer, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not much for the homeschooling.
Okay, so you're actually buying books and you're putting them in front of the said child, and you're saying figure it out.
No, it's more interactive than that.
Okay, thank you. I yield.
Thank you so much, Spin. Excellent line of questioning.
I want to answer just one of the last questions that comments he had, and that's
It's hogging the mic here.
I'm good at it. But that poor kids already don't get tutors, so that it's a non-issue that if the teacher leaves the classroom, well, now poor kids can't. They already can't get private tutors, so it's a
yes, at the government's expense. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You're inflating the cost, but you're not giving a solution of the cost. The cost for all of this bullshit is going to be 20 times higher than just paying a teacher to come into the classroom and teach the little snot-nosed bastards like we did. We're all adults here. Fuck all this bullshit. And you know what? Sarah, I'm done.
Thank you, Spin. I appreciate it. Vibe, let's move on to you, sir.
Yes, I used your word, Clay.
How you guys doing? Okay. Just enjoying some fresh.
Are you on the right mic, Vibe?
Uh-oh. Can you not hear me?
You sound like you're in a tin can or something.
Let's see. Headset Bose. Yeah, I'm in the Philippines right now, so I'm on jungle Wi-Fi.
Okay, so your shit just sucks. That's all. Go ahead, Vibe. Ask your question.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. I have to say, we'll have to get into it.
He's popping in and out for me, Sarah. Like in and out.
It's fine.
Sarah,
go ahead, ask your question, Vibe.
If you want to go to the next person, I'll switch over to these headphones and see if it's better.
No, just go. I think you're all right. Just go ahead and ask your question.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely going to dig into Angry Man because I think he's got a lot of misconceptions on how all this stuff works. But to our panelists, starting with Paranoid here, you were mentioning this is something that we could do right away today. And based on the prompt, that would mean replacing teachers today with AI. And I mean, do you actually think that's possible, or without any restructure of the school, or do you think you have to redesign the whole school system and how the whole education program works? So, for example, if kids are now all of a sudden learning at their own pace, and there are some charter schools out there, they're doing 2-hour a day AI teaching sessions where it's just 2 hours. They're seeing a huge uptick in performance of students, but that is being reported by the schools, so I don't know how accurate that is. But in this particular example, kids can now move at a much faster pace than they were able to, especially when the curriculum is designed specifically for their learning habits, which means the grades almost become irrelevant, and the kids are all going to accelerate at different rates. So you're not going to be keeping the same kids together in the same groups as they accelerate through the programs with the same guides, right? You'd really have to restructure the whole grade system, I mean, everything, if everybody gets to learn at this pace. And how would you solve that? Or do you think this is going to be an incremental change where we start with cameras in there that's feeding to a teacher, and it's just reading the student's attention, saying, I can see in the eyes of this student, he doesn't understand. I can see in the eyes of this one, he's bored. I can see in the eyes of this one, which we can currently do right now. That these will be incremental steps that over a decade will gradually keep on adding more and more AI in there until teachers get replaced with guides, which would be more psychological and play development people. How would you see that whole transition, or do you actually think it could happen today?
I do think that would be incremental, and it'll probably be the same way that, as a loose example, but there are some people that just do like menial tasks, and part of the new job is they'll wear a camera and a microphone that records like what they're doing so that they can feed some neural network, and on a long enough timeline, that neural network discovers like what that job entails and just kind of slowly takes it over, the same way that you would hand off a job to a new incoming person as you're leaving another job. I want to clarify, when I said that we could do this today, that was a direct response to MC Toon. Basically, I think he was implying that we don't have LLMs that are good enough that would be up to the task to teach a kid about a certain subject and quiz them and do all of that, and that it was like some hypothetical future model that might be better in the future. I'm saying that right now, today, June 2026, we have a localized model that you could download and host by yourself that would be able to solve this issue. Now, the actual like infrastructure and how the lesson plans work and who goes to what classroom, all of that would absolutely be incremental. I'm not saying you turnkey, fire all the teachers, you show up on a Tuesday, and now there's a computer where the teacher used to be. That's not this. It's just that the models exist that could have the educational value that the teacher has.
Okay. Yeah, and I was going to say, like, I think it's just a whole restructuring of the whole educational system if we were to replace teachers today, right? It's just not. It's
the
not
original
feasible.
method was basically church-based and community-based, where all of the kids in a certain town would all go to one big room with one teacher, where you've got, like 16-year-olds learning again next to 11 and 12-year-olds. And in those scenarios, they also kind of self-segregated into like, here's the fast ones and here's the slow ones, and they would learn at their paces and that sort of a less structured way. But it's not that these drastic changes to how the education system hasn't already happened and we can't weather the storm. And in fact, I think when they introduced like some of the public education guidelines from like the 1970s, you've seen an objective trajectory where things are getting worse and they haven't gotten better since then. So even if you were to disagree with any of these takes, status quo and doing what we're already doing is already proven to be a losing formula. So something experimental has to change. There has to be some sort of upset in the way the school system works, regardless of what that change is.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that we're going to see it not in the magnet schools, but in the charter schools and the private schools, where they incrementally expand this. And if it works, then we'll see. By then, the price is going to come down, and it'll start expanding into the private schools, whether we like it or not. It's really, how do we govern it and how do we move forward? Now, given that, like Toon, you sounded like, this is something you would not want to see. But you guys did kind of concede or come together on the idea, like, let's say we went through these incremental changes. Would you be comfortable with actually giving the teacher role to AI, but actually having maybe a dedicated, as I said, guide that was more trained in psychology and play behavior and social behavior, that basically guides the kids through like 2-hour sprints or 1-hour sprints, taking them apart from that and then working as a group together to go through those sessions, where the majority of the teaching is actually being taught by a guided system, but you have somebody that's less in the education sphere, but more in the social and play sphere of the teacher role, because we still need role models, right? We need somebody to look up to and say, I want to behave like that. And each of us had a different teacher that we probably saw, or a coach or somebody like that, where we said, I like the behavior of that person. I'm going to start modeling myself. And we might all have different people, right? If we replace these type of roles with like janitors and security guards, I mean, maybe they're a good role model, but maybe that's not the the role models we want. Would that be something in the future, Toon, you would be comfortable with moving into a primarily AI teaching role, but with very strong social guides?
Well, I won't take an absolutist position. So I'll say, if it was found that was a successful system, then sway me with the evidence about how well that worked. But as the prompt, no, I don't think that's the case here. I don't think that's going to happen. And no, I guess not. In general, no. But present the evidence to me and sway me with that. And everything's, of course, has to be at this moment, has to be hypothetical.
Okay.
All right, I'll give it to the next person, Sarah, and I'll change my headset while we're doing that and see if that works better.
Thank you so much, Five. We appreciate you. And to you, sir, question, comment? It always takes him a second. 5, 4.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I wanted to touch back on something that Dale brought up, but kind of seemed to have gotten skipped over. Maybe I just didn't hear the answer. But first, I want to understand correctly, you believe that AI would mean teachers wouldn't have to actually know the subjects being taught in the classroom, correct?
Correct.
I have to strongly disagree. With the tendency for LLMs to hallucinate, young students are too naive of what they're learning to spot these hallucinations. This would be something the teacher has to be able to step in and intercede with. When it detects the LLM producing these hallucinatory results, the teacher can step in and correct the LLM.
So hallucinations are absolutely real. There's no debating that. All of us right now could prove that AI will hallucinate. However, a lot of these hallucinations can be mitigated very easily using a number of techniques. Retrieval augmented system is one, the RAG. Another one is just setting a temperature. But let me give you a human example as to how static this can be. And again, this is personal anecdote experience, but I remember I had a specific, I think it was like a science teacher. The entire science class, like every single day, aside from labs that we were self-guided labs that we did with a team and not with a teacher intervening, the entire classroom consisted of showing up, and he had an overhead projector where he had written in cursive notes from like 12 years ago, and we would just sit down and just write down his notes verbatim, and you would go home and you would just read them over and over again and memorize them, and then show up on every other Friday and take a test, and that would be a Scantron test, and that was it. So in that scenario, we had no feedback from that teacher, no interactivity, that he didn't even have an option to hallucinate for us, because he would just be like, write down what's on the overhead projector. So in that scenario, we can definitely make an LLM so stupid and so strict and static that it would do the exact same job as that science teacher. But it also has the ability to turn that temperature up. Temperature meaning, I think, a vague way of describing that would be like how much randomness or how much creativity you're allowing the LLM to have. So you can turn that temperature all the way down so it becomes more deterministic, meaning less hallucinations, all the way to the point where it can just spit out a script the same way that a human teacher would. So I would almost argue that you can match that static approach that my science teacher example, but you also have the ability to sort of tweak it and get it to be a little bit more open and more flexible while mitigating those hallucinations. Like in a properly trained system, you can mitigate a large majority of those.
You don't mitigate hallucinations by restricting information, because part of the problem that causes them is that it has low fidelity or low confidence information to begin with. And then it's trying to piece something together confidently based off of that. That's the problem. And that's not solved by taking information out. You actually need more information in so that it doesn't have to choose from those low confidence tokens.
If we're talking about an open-ended LLM where a kid can ask anything on any subject, yeah. But if we're talking about like this month's lesson is going to be on 14th century sort of like Europe, then you can absolutely have an LLM that is so laser focused with rag materials that it won't eliminate 100%, but it will greatly reduce the chance of a hallucination if the questions are all oriented about the very thing that it was trained on. I agree. Like if you start asking it math questions and theoretical physics, yeah, it'll just make stuff up and hallucinate.
You don't even have to go that far. Like the top models still struggle with topics of law and research. They can go from 17 to 80% hallucination rates on those topics. That's not something I would trust to be, not have a teacher overseeing. So I'm saying.
Are you talking about top models that are specifically fine-tuned in legal precedent, or are you talking about top model like the latest Opus or the latest generalized like Codex or GPT?
I can look up the list of the models they're referring to.
Well, because I guess the main question here is, are we talking about a model that was specifically trained on, and so that it is an expert on like legal matters for lawyers, or that you can open up one of these generalized AI LLMs and ask it a legal question, and then that'll hallucinate?
It didn't specify, but I assume they're general models.
So in that case, less information actually would help a little bit. But it's in the context, right? Because these general models, they're supposed to be like you can ask it any question, and I think that's really the problem. If you
because things like Cornell are going to come through as like high confidence versus some website that it doesn't know anything about, or maybe it's just a scanned in PDF from a legal book, right? It's still going to do fine even with the lower confidence information with high confidence sources if it's available.
I agree. I don't disagree with what you're saying. I just think the solution,
you'll be able to tell a better difference because it can go, oh, this is low confidence, and this over here is matching the low confidence more than the high confidence, and determine that's probably bad information. Like more information is always better than less.
Well, more information within the context that you're curious in. If you feed it a whole bunch of like 1980s music trivia, that might not help you on your math test. Or math might be the wrong example for an LLM, but it might not help you on your history test. No,
I'm not suggesting it would. But you also have to understand too the other problem: kids are smart, they're clever, and they hate authority. They're going to, and it's well known that you can jailbreak LLMs. That's not going to be very long until children figure out how to jailbreak whatever LLM the school's using to produce all kinds of crazy and wild content.
I would argue that would be a net positive. That actually means that now there's emergent learning occurring where they're developing valuable skills that are relevant in the real world in real time. That's something that you might not get out of your social studies class.
Where it's just something they read off the internet.
I mean, even so, I feel like they're demonstrating an actual usable skill. So if the worst thing that happens is kids learn how to jailbreak LLMs, that's great. That's actually better than I would expect out of a typical public educated school kid right now.
Well, they already do that though. They already, I mean, Napster, for Pete's sake, when we were kids in our age group, like we had Napster, we figured out how to even cheat codes. Like we figured all of this stuff out already. We were there without AI.
Anyways, I thank you for your time. Sarah, I guess you can move on. I can see the rest of the panel.
That was a good question. Clay,
great question. Thank you,
sir.
All right, very good. Thank you, Paranoid American and MC Tune, for being here. Thank you, Sarah, for hosting, as always. Forgive me, I do want to ask something particular to someone who wasn't able to be here. And I just want to go down the train of thought on it, just to kind of get your take on it, Paranoid. Primarily, it seems that money seems to be the issue. I want you to touch on that a little bit, but before you do that, I also want to hear a little bit about your experience within the education system as well. But then after you tell us a little bit about that, if you could, with the financial stuff, I guess the best way to do this is to kind of go through it. Kind of wondering, like, if you take away the funding for the teachers, essentially now you've gotten rid of that's kind of like a social safety net, right? So that we have the ability to teach the children. Now you've taken that funding completely away, right? And if you do that, then that's gone, okay? But then comes the question, if it's burdensome to have all of these teachers monetarily, right? It seems more as a criticism of the whole system, right? So you're talking about administration, and the compromise of the educational outcomes, that monetary thing, right? So taking all that funding away, that's kind of general, right? But then you're proposing a solution. And if you're proposing that solution, it seems more that you are just more or less attacking the education system on a whole politically, as opposed to really focusing why it is that these things are happening. Now, me personally, like I said, this is somebody else's thoughts on this. I don't care about the money. I want you to spend as much money as possible if it gets the right results, personally. But it does seem as though the money seems to be the issue in this, and it seems that it's more aligned with perhaps some personal vendetta that you might have against the teachers and what they're capable of doing versus the actual money.
Great observations. I would say I also don't care about the budget. I think that we've shown, first of all, we're willing to spend more on education than any other country in the world, right? But based on ratio to GDP. So we're already spending more than anybody else. And like you, if we have to double that, triple that, quadruple that, I'm enough of a conspiracy theorist. I really do think that someone in the government's just like turn the money printer on and it's just printing out money, and now we have the money. Like, let future generations deal with the inflation that it causes. But to me, it is a non-issue. So I don't see that any of this is bound from budget reasons. I'm obviously happy to entertain that discussion because it's a very real issue that usually holds things back. But let's just say that's not an issue. There is a very real issue with scale. You just won't have enough human beings willing to go and do one-to-one teaching, teacher to student, by throwing money at it. Even if you had the money to do that, there isn't the amount of human beings that are willing to do that. And the only way that you could entice them is that you'd have to start spending way more than 60 grand a year. You'd probably have to up that to like 150, 200 plus. I mean, we're just guessing at that point. That becomes completely economically unviable. On the other hand, I think that the approach to replace the teachers, let's say an average school has like 30, 32 teachers. If each of those is making $60,000 a year, I think that was the average that we brought up earlier, that's roughly $2 million a year in salary just for the teachers alone. That's not including the administration and the janitors and the lunch ladies. All of them get to keep their jobs, right? So now you have $2 million to basically stage a local AI system. And if it doesn't break every single year, which it absolutely shouldn't, then if that lasts for 3 or 4 years, well, now cumulatively over the course of 4 years, that's $8 million that you have to invest. And it keeps growing. It keeps getting faster. It keeps getting better. So I don't even think the budget is an issue once you actually start doing the numbers. But again, I think it's a moot point because I don't care how much we spend. I would rather dump all the money we can and get this problem solved, to get smarter kids and a smarter younger generation that can like lift the country up.
Fair enough. Yeah, and I apologize. My camera went out just as we were doing our Q&A, so I apologize for that. I like to give my reactions real time, but no, I hope I did justice for that. I think that the concern here mostly is, like I was saying, for him, the concern is perhaps that you don't feel that these teachers are doing a very good job, so you want to replace them, but then perhaps maybe that AI isn't the best solution. Maybe, and this is just my personal feelings, better teachers, obviously, that's obviously going to be a question. But then also he was wondering your kind of expertise. What is your field behind education?
I mean, I feel like everyone here is probably qualified to speak on it because we've all gone through at least a decade of education, whether private, public, or other. Some of us, if we went to college, it may be even closer to 2 decades worth. So I think that's enough. If you need more credentials than that, I also was a subject matter expert and a learning course designer for all sorts of Fortune 500 companies. I designed the educational training system for Hillrom beds, which are incredibly complex beds that if you've ever been to hospice or a hospital, they're the little bed, the automated beds that like turn you around and make sure you don't get bed sores. They literally have like 80 buttons on them. And if the nurses don't understand how to use them, somebody can actually die. So I didn't work in education system, but I absolutely have been working in education, e-learning. And my mom growing up was an English teacher in public school and college and did tutoring. So I come from a family of, teachers. She would not be happy with my approach on this subject either.
I bet. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you gave that as well. I know that was his curiosity. But actually that kind of goes into a little bit of my curiosity too, because I'm wondering when it comes to the teachers themselves, right? I don't look at the actual like curriculum as the bigger cost. The bigger cost is the child care, right? So these children are being educated. Sure, the curriculum is there, but the individual person, each one of them has to have someone who can direct them in the right direction. I mean, these concepts go into morality and ethics and things like that. And I don't see how, even though AI can teach what ethics are or what morals are, they can't teach why ethics exist in real time. Like that really does require a human experience, right? And so when I'm looking at that, I'm kind of wondering, like, not just when they're teaching and when they're doing the thing, but also like the vetting for the employment of, right? So if you have a policing of the classroom, just because it's, it's already being taught and all of a sudden now all you've got is a babysitter in there, the child care is the focus at that point. And yes, teachers are doing child care essentially, but they also are serving, right? So teaching actually is a service. All teachers are required to sign an oath in this country. This is actually a requirement. All service members of the public domain are required to sign an oath. And so AI can't do that. So the only other option in service would be a policing, right? Or child care, things like that. So that service, then you're essentially handing it over not to someone who's completely integrated with the system and why it's happening, but you're actually handing it over just to essentially a babysitter, no longer interested in why they're being taught.
I see that. I guess my counter to that would just be, I wouldn't trust a human teacher to teach ethics, and I don't care if they signed an oath. That doesn't mean that they're going to uphold that oath. They're humans. They're full of flaws. So it's almost a complete wash to me. Like, sure, yeah, an LLM can't agree to an oath. A human can, but they can lie to it, or a human can, and then they can, over a period of 5-10 years, start to get a little bit more and more comfortable, start to get a little bit more flexible with what they consider in and out of that oath. So, I mean, we're not living in a vacuum with like automatons. These are real people with problems.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I want to ask MC Toon one question as well. When it comes to the idea that we just don't know what could happen, right, in this scenario, that from my perspective isn't always the best perspective to have. Just because I don't know what's going to happen doesn't mean I shouldn't necessarily integrate, right? And I think you actually answered the question of integration. You're not really opposed to integration. You just want the right type of integration, perhaps. And I think that's accurate. I see you shaking your head. Yeah. But then, would you agree that data storage is cheaper than labor?
Generally, yeah.
Okay,
So
fair enough. Fair enough.
we
That's
use
really
that-
all I got for you, brother.
we
man.
use that concept at work all the time, right? We can go and optimize some code to be more efficient, or for a lot less time, we can go and cache something in that takes an extra amount of memory. Like, well, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
lot cheaper.
So there is that recognition that it just seems to be a better option when it comes to simply data storage, right? I can carry around a 12-pound book, or I can carry around, a 12-pound laptop, and one of them is going to be able to store way more data than the other, right? But just to kind of switch back, and I'm going to just give a couple more quick questions to Paranoid. Can you explain red teaming a little bit? And then also, I want you to, when it comes to the particular subjects of, like, you got the mathematics, sciences, the history, and the languages, can you explain to us why it is that, particularly with languages and sciences, I actually consider sciences part of the arts as well, why those are more difficult to have a computer model teach it? I know that you are for the AI, but can you explain why it's actually more difficult for the AI to teach it? And that's kind of why I want you to, if you could, explain red teaming a little bit.
So I'm not familiar with the concept of red teaming, but I can, at a very high level, talk about why LLMs aren't well suited for math and science. But do you want to define what red teaming is for me?
Red teaming is the idea that you can, it's essentially like a security protocol where it's like testing the AI to see how far it'll break before it'll break, how far it'll bend before it'll break, and then going back and then fixing that coding.
Okay.
The red team is the attack team. The blue team is the protection team.
Tom, you know the rules here.
Okay. No, thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. You made a huge difference, and because I actually just kind of looked it up, and that's why I was asking him. But no, I appreciate that, because it was it. So there's two teams technically.
So just to clarify, and I guess Tom, you're allowed to answer this too, in case you know the answer.
If it's okay with Sarah. If it's okay with Sarah.
He is the expert. I think we should actually allow him to provide the correctness.
If I were to oversimplify and come up with an analogy that I'm more familiar with, would this mean that like red teaming is sort of like pen testing AI in a way? Okay, I got a thumbs up. So okay, I'm familiar with the concept of penetration testing. So again, I'm not the expert on this specific topic, but my belief is that LLMs are not well suited for math or science in isolation, because an LLM is a language model. It's good at predicting the next word or the next letter that's going to be said, but it's entirely based on whatever it was trained on. So it's not doing math. It's not doing science. It's just pulling up, here's the next logical thing that I would say if I were saying all these previous things based on all this other context. However, LLMs do have the ability, when they're part of these larger systems, to identify, oh, this is a math question. Oh, this is a science question. For example, if you were to ask a math question to Claude Code or to Codex from OpenAI or Gemini Code or any of these other like code specific, you ask it a math question, more times than not, it's going to write a computer script, and then it's going to run, the variables through that script where the math is actually happening in code. So it's no longer leveraging the language model to do the math. It's actually creating code. The code does the math, and then it verifies like the logic in the code. And you could extrapolate that to a slightly more abstract degree to science, where now it can actually write like an entire Python script and then determine what the answer to the science question is. Those are also prone to hallucination, but that's why LLMs are not good at math and science, but they can call on other agents that then call agentic tools, which are good at those things.
Very good. And then I would actually like to be able to hear MC Toon's opinion on that as well, because when we're talking about the mathematics, the sciences, the arts, the languages, as I was mentioning, these things are very difficult, and I hear your version of why it's difficult to teach these things. I want to hear MC Toon's opinion on this, why it's more difficult than just say like history and actually mathematics. The interesting thing about mathematics is that it does change over time, but very, very, very little. And there's a reason for that as well. But specifically, like this question is about the arts and why the arts are more difficult to teach.
All right.
Yeah, well, art is subjective instead of objective in general. Math, K through 12 math, how much has it changed since, 50 years ago? Not a lot. It's the same topics. It's university level stuff, but I just wanted to put that in. So yeah, history is one thing, right? It's not really just, this happened and this happened and this happened in this year. There are these links that happen. What was the cause, the trigger of World War I? That's not a fact. That's something you when you're teaching history, you're teaching that these things happened and drawing those links. And AI is okay at drawing those links. And right, that's the neural net part of it. It's fine at that. But when you're doing things that's more subjective, art, right? It can imitate art because it's seen art, and then it can go and synthesize art and say, okay, well, here's what I've seen, and let me mix them together and give it to you. It's not from what I've never seen, and I can't say this, completely, but I've never seen an AI generate something that it hasn't somehow been fed in some way in a combination. It's not doing new stuff. It's not avant-garde, like, that band that's not like any other band that you've ever heard before. That band, they suck. Yeah, I've heard them. Everybody's heard that band. They suck. Anyway, it's not like that. It's I don't know. That's all I got.
No, I like it, and I'll go ahead and pass it off.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that art is difficult to teach because it's very difficult to teach what is beautiful and what is ugly. Those things AI just simply does not recognize.
So, and just I want to tack on to that too, that technically when it's generating art, that's no longer an LLM. Those are usually diffusion models and a million other ones too. And also the statement that math hasn't changed in the last 50 years. I can find nitpicky examples. Like, for example, I believe the definition of a trapezoid changed at one point from a shape that has exactly one pair of parallel sides, and then eventually gets redefined as at least one pair of parallel sides. I know it's not the strongest example, but changes do happen even in K through 12 math. It's not all like high level, mathematics.
I agree.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Clay. For the win, you're up, sir. Have at it.
Thank you, Sarah.
Mhm.
MC2, and you've kind of gotten off a little easy here, so I'll start with you here. So I wanted to ask,
Thank you.
with homeschooling your children, how did that start? Did you have them in public school and then pulled them out, or what happened there?
I actually used some of my experience in one of my slides. So our first kid went to kindergarten and first grade, and in first grade, he would be given math homework, right? Here's your math sheet for the day. And he was behind on reading. So they'd give him the math sheet. And we put this together later. They'd give him the math sheet, and on the top of it was the instructions. Now, he was behind in reading. The math, they didn't figure this out. They didn't put it together. He was not doing the math. He was failing the math stuff or doing poorly in math. And I'm like, he's pretty good at math. He really isn't having problems with this first grade math stuff. Why is it so bad? Well, so then my wife is spending hours every day going over the math with him. But it was just that somebody needed to read to him the instructions, and he wasn't doing it because the pace for reading wasn't what he needed. So he's good at math. He was getting bad grades at math, and it took a human, my wife, not the teacher, not impressed myself. I wasn't impressed with that. My wife, to figure that out. An LLM would never have figured that out. He's getting bad grades at math. Well, he put him in a slower math, pace. Anyway, that was first grade. At the end of first grade, my wife's like, this, we're struggling. This isn't going well. How about we homeschool for a year? Let's see how it goes. Get his reading up to par or whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah, all right. Well, for a year, fine, whatever. Well, at the end of the first year of homeschooling, which was second grade for him, he was reading for fun. I was buying him Redwall books. I got him in the end. I got like the entire Redwall book collection. He chewed them all up. The kid who couldn't read in first grade is behind in reading in first grade. By fourth grade, had read through all the entire Redwall series. And so after second grade, we're like, this really was good for him. He's fine at math. He's caught up on that. He gets it. He's way ahead in reading. So we kept going. And then we asked at each boundary, when you move to a different building, you get mixed up, you get jumbled up with different kids. And so you're not the new kid. So when you go from elementary school to middle school, everybody gets chucked together. So there's no new kids. And we're like, that's when you want to do the transition. If you're going to do it, that's a great time because you're not the new kid. So every one of those transitions that when our local school system had that, we're like, this would be the year if you really want to. What do you think? And every year, and all of our kids did this. They're like, no, this is it. So that's what it's been, and so that's our experience.
Very cool, very cool. So Paranoid, you've talked a lot. We've hounded you a lot here tonight, so I'm going to do some extra hounding now here for you. So
I like it.
All right, cool.
It.
So with Ant, you had said this is what you expect out of your typical public school age kid. There's expectations that you've created in your mind as to what we're getting as our results. You have pointed to that I believe we're number one in the spending on education in this country. And I believe last time I checked, we're roughly around about 36th in results. That's horseshit. I'm going to drop this in the back chat here. This is a final from 1895 for 8th grade. And I shit you not, like these kids back then were taught very well, and they would wipe the floor easily with these kids. And they didn't have language models. They didn't have computers. They didn't have anything. They had instruction from a teacher and everything. And just hearing from MC2 now, he brought up another great point, is that not all kids learn the exact same way. So now if we're going to pigeonhole our entire youth into this AI, for example, what are the results that we're going to get? Because so far, with having Chromebooks in the classroom and everything, these results are not what they used to be as well either. And also, I'll let you respond there first, and then I'll hound you more.
Well, I would push back on pigeonholing. I would say this is the exact opposite of pigeonholing. Right now, you're going to force optimistically 20 to 30 kids to learn from one teacher the way that teacher decides that they want to teach. Their teaching method, their disciplinary method, just like the tonality of their voice, all of that, their pacing. All of those kids are essentially being pigeonholed into dealing with how that teacher teaches. Once you create AI as the instructional layer, now you can have 20 or 30 different variations teaching the exact same content, but catering it in 20 to 30 different ways, which is something that a human being simply doesn't have the time or capacity to scale. So I don't think it's pigeonholing. And I also would say that it's not fair to say like, oh, well, they've had Chromebooks and Chromebooks have led to not a huge improvement. I think that this is because the ultimate problem is the teacher. The teacher was the problem, and the Chromebooks didn't replace the teacher. The Chromebooks just replaced the books. That's all that they really.
They replaced the pen and paper as well now too.
Pen and paper and the book, yeah. And now no one can draw in cursive or write by hand anymore. And again, I'm not going to debate that 100 years ago education was stronger. Tests were much more difficult. The norm might be that you spoke 3 or 4 different languages and you were multidisciplined. That's long gone.
And why is that? Why is that?
Can we just get to where a 7th grader can read at a 7th grade level? Once we can get back to that baseline, then we can talk about rewinding the clock to the 1800s where people were, multilingual.
Well, it's not about just being multilingual. I think it just starts simply with the building blocks, and that I think you're a fellow conspiracy theorist and such like that. There's been a complete dumbed downness of our country and everything. And I think it's done for a reason. This is why we are where we are. This is why we're getting 36 for results. And now you're substituting, well, now that we have these computers, let's just double down now and go full AI with everything. I think we're truly going in the wrong direction with everything, with all of that. We need to go back to the basics of things. And it starts with like MC Tunes kids, where, if someone's not a good reader, well, get more direction in the right avenue with that from a teacher and such, like that helped his son. So I went, go on.
Oh, to be clear, I just want to make sure I'm not misanthropic. I don't think that I want all teachers to be replaced because of a chip on my shoulder. I do have a chip on my shoulder, but that's not the reason. I don't think they should be replaced. I just think that it's literally just a scale problem. If in some wild scenario we could afford to have a teacher for every single student in every single class, I would be more in favor of that than I ever would be in favor of putting AI in that role. I just don't think that we're ever going to live in that reality. So on a pragmatic standpoint, AI is the only real viable solution that fixes all these problems that have come up. Every other solution is really just like, well, let's just see if it gets better. Let's just raise salaries a little bit. Let's just do this and that. Like, there are all these incremental small tweaks. But you just showed that, again, in like the 1800s, before we had the current version of schooling, everyone just kind of went to like the local church, the local community center. And I think part of the big reason, and this is conspiracy, they're dumbing us down. I didn't bring that approach because it would be harder to defend with all that extra baggage, but it's that.
But it's true.
The old forms of schooling was community based. You wanted your neighbors to be smart. You wanted your kids to be friends with the other kids in the community. You wanted like all of that to help your town out so that your town would become better. I think the way that school works now, everyone is so isolated that there's really no, like, the teacher's not thinking, I'm raising the children that are going to be the next wave in this community, therefore I've got this extra social obligation. They're like, oh my God, when is this class period end? I hate these freaking kids. So it's like a stark difference between the incentives of being a teacher in the 1850s versus the incentives of being a teacher in 2020.
Sure. So you brought up the Scantron. Fucking worst piece of shit ever. I agree with you. I was a shitty test taker myself and everything. I understood all the concepts and everything. And then when it came to take the test and everything, they would just tweak, like on math, like ever so slightly off from whatever your homework was. And you're like, what the fuck is this? They didn't teach me this shit. What the fuck? It was just bullshit. It just pissed me off and everything. And a lot of kids had that same problem with things. So it was just very frustrating. But I really do believe, like, I went to private school from preschool through third grade. And we learned like phonics, the building blocks, the true building blocks of everything. And I think it really starts there. And I'm just kind of sitting here thinking about things where, well, there are things that private schools are doing that we can just replicate in public schools. Why do we have to have more money being thrown at private school for kids to get better education when we're already throwing the most money in the world on it right now? Like, that's kind of asinine to me. Even if it's not rhetorical, but part of the answer is that if you go to private school, then it means that at least somebody in that equation, the parents or the kids, they want to be there, or that they've got some incentive to be there. When it comes to public school, it could literally just be the place you have to send your kids to, otherwise you go to jail, right? Because it's basically state mandated. So one of them is forced, and it could just be like a passive daycare situation. In a private school, somebody in your family has an incentive for you to actually pay attention and make use of that, because they've made like a monetary obligation in order for you to even be there. So it's a little bit night and day. And just to tack on to I loved Scantrons, and part of the reason I think that I have this thought about like AI replacing teachers is teachers could kind of be boiled down to three things they were useful for to me. One is they could answer a question that I had where the answer wasn't in the book, and there was no other option for me to do that. Go to the library and hope you pick the right book. So asking a question directly to a human being, that was essential. The next one would be if I got something wrong, they could actually be like, oh, I see that you did that. You carried the one and you weren't supposed to do that. Having that direct feedback on why I got it wrong, that was helpful. And then finally having some sort of objective third party, as much as they didn't always feel objective, to grade and do the assessment.
all three of those things can be solved. In my limited view, all three of those things can be solved by AI, no problem. The only reason that I even spent money to go to college was because I had questions that I couldn't find a tutorial or a book or a Wikipedia article on that answered it. And I was like, I got to just go and hire a professional teacher and go to school so I can ask them these like highly niche specific things that I wanted to know. If I had an LLM, I might not have had to go to school to do that.
What year did you graduate high school?
2001.
Okay, I was 06. So like they just shoved it down our throats. You have to go to college. You have to go to college. And it's just wild. Like not everyone truly needs to go to college. And they made it just this thing where it was just an expectation. And then you have graduation parties. Where are you going to college? Oh, so-and-so's going there. And it was just, it's the wrong way that our society has really gone overall and everything. Because when we come out of high school, not everyone's at the same level with everything at all either. And we shouldn't have to have that expectation of being able to go there. And lastly, Walmart greeters.
Well, the point there though is that a Walmart greeter is,
dude, my Walmart greeters fucking sit in wheelchairs and they're just fucking retards. I'm sorry, Spin, but they're fucking retards. And it's
some
just,
of them have just been aged out of any other viable career field, and they just want to like have social interactions with people. I get, in my experience, maybe in the town that I grew up in, but it was like the grandma that had been a teacher for her entire life, and now she doesn't want to be a teacher anymore, but she's also bored. She just wants to like smile, and like that Walmart greeter could probably be getting paid as much or more doing the same thing, making kids feel good about themselves in just a different environment. So I mean, I know it's not the perfect analogy, but yeah, Walmart.
I know.
Good.
I know what you're saying, but like that's it was a funny analogy with it. And I mean, I'm pretty sure the last time I went to a
Walmart greeters in fucking wheelchairs, prick.
All right.
Last time I walked into a Walmart, the guy was drooling, just sitting there. Well, I'm like, hi, I'll do your job for you. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here walking in right now. This is awkward.
Can I have your receipt? Can I have your receipt?
Thank you so much for the win.
Thank
And last but certainly not least, LLM Degrader. If you'd like to ask your question or provide a comment.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Sarah, Paranoid. I have a long question for MC Toon and then kind of just a quick one for Paranoid American. So for MC Toon, it sounded like you are for, and I'm a software engineer. I build with AI, you guys. It sounds like you are for some sort of AI implemented in the education system. I thought I heard you mention that earlier and on a brief.
Yep.
Yep. So just a second. With that, I think I don't quite understand how such a solution would not simply converge into a system like the one that Paranoid has suggested here. And if it did converge into that, would you be okay with that? Let me kind of explain how that happened. So, like with the current context, we see all sorts of jobs or tasks being automated. Three of us have seen this for engineering. AI is being integrated everywhere. And in this case in particular, we see in the education system, we see two parties who are very incentivized to use AI. They're the teachers who are burdened with their workloads and would likely look for any sort of relief they would offload to AI, and students needing to assimilate to this AI native world are really going to use AI, or maybe I don't know. If we imagine that they both do use AI, then Paranoid system might just be some sort of like formalization of this end state. I don't understand how, if we implement even a tiny solution, like where we, if I something like what I think you might have done, like integrate a tutor, or we integrate a small application into the education system, then teachers would be more incentivized to rely on more and more, and they would be trying to, I don't know, deal with their burdensome public education maybe they have 20 kids, they're all rowdy, and they want to focus on that. And they just lean more and more. Oh, it's easy. The LM teaching intuitions to the children. I'm going to have to do that. Going to the point where they just offload essentially their entire workload to this system, and they no longer need to do the teaching portion. If we get to that point, then what is between this system and where the system has gotten to and Paranoid's suggestion? Sorry, were folks able to hear me?
It sounds like your mic's kind of just tapping slightly in and out. I'm still picking up what you're putting down, but that we're kind of like having to fill the gaps mentally. Just so you know.
I think I understood fully what he was asking.
Yeah, it was still context clues there.
Basically.
We got it.
Okay, one system would converge into the other. So what do you think about that turn of events? Do you think that this would happen? If so, why or why not? And would you be okay with it?
Could it happen? I see that it could. I see that teachers could just take the easy route. Yeah. And yeah, I wouldn't want to see that happen. And like I said to whoever asked earlier, I'm not going to have an absolute position on this. If there was an actual system that tried this and they had actual results where there was no teacher in the room anymore and it was just the AI, and then we could look and evaluate the results and see if the hypothesis put forward by Paranoid here was confirmed or not. Then, well, we could at least have a data point. We don't even have that data point yet. But would the teachers tend toward that? I suppose they can. And that goes to the just like all the other questions. How do you stop the teacher from teaching the thing that they're not supposed to do? And how do you deal with this? And how do you, right? If the teachers do the wrong things, that's a management problem. And we have people that are managers of teachers, the school administrators. That's their job, is to manage the teachers. So you go back to them and you say, make sure you're managing your teachers. And the fact that there are some teachers that are bad teachers and haven't been managed well doesn't mean that that you get rid of the whole system or you swap out for some other completely untested hypothesis. No, you fix the problem.
Mm-hmm. That does make sense. Yep. And then just a small one for Paranoid. I liked some of the technical stuff you got into, even when we were getting to implementation and sort of how the system might work. You brought up a term, and I was just curious what that term means. You mentioned RAG model. What is a RAG model?
So RAG, as I understand, it's not necessarily a model. It's a technique that models can leverage. So I'll give you the non-technical explanation for this, which might be a little bit oversimplified. But a RAG would be, and you can do this now on some AI systems, where you've got the chatbot, you've got the LLM, but then you also have files you can upload. I can upload a PDF of a book that I wanted to be an expert in, or I can upload 20 different PDFs. RAG would essentially mean that instead of the LLM having to go back on all the things that it's ever been trained in to get your answer, it'll look at the PDF you just uploaded and derive the answer from that as its knowledge base. So it's sort of a way to augment what the LLM might know in general and give it like hyper specialized specific information. The RAG, it stands for retrieval augmented, blanking on the G, generation, retrieval augmented generation. So again, it's just a way of saying like, oh, well, I want to talk to my AI about this particular topic, but that topic is brand new and clearly like this generalized model doesn't know about it. So here's the exact information that you want. And then there's other like hyper specialized versions of RAG and alternatives where you've got like vector databases and things that can basically create like mathematical links between certain topics. But RAG is just a really easy way to augment something. So a teacher could be like, I want to teach mice and men. Hey, LLM, here is the version of mice and men. Here's the teacher guide to mice and men. And anytime I ask you about anything related to mice and men, you treat this PDF as your source of truth. That's an oversimplified version of RAG, I think.
Yeah, and they might not have the full document or something. Okay, yeah, so it's not a model, but it's like this stuff around it that grounds it. Okay, cool.
It's if you're familiar with doing any sort of like diffusion models, it would be similar to like an embedding or a LoRa, a low rank adapter, where basically like it doesn't know what Mr. Bean looks like, but I can augment my image model. Here's what Mr. Bean looks like. So whenever I ask you to make a picture of Mr. Bean, like use this augmented model. It's very similar to that.
Yep. Yeah, you might use embedding. Okay, that makes sense. All right. Yeah, thank you both.
Perfect. Thank you so much. As a kind reminder, we are officially moving over to the gauntlet. This is open floor, open mic, still meant to be respectful. Let's not get too crazy, but it's a little more fun and enjoyable. And of course, it goes downhill towards the end of the night. If you are watching over on the Raging Tomato on any of those other platforms, those ends will be shut down and you will only be able to watch over on the Gauntlet debate in terms of if you are on my stuff, not anybody else's. So if you're watching the Raging Tomato on YouTube, Kick, X, Pilled, Kick, whatever, I'm going to end all of those and you have to come continue watching over at the Gauntlet. That is at the Gauntlet debate on YouTube. Head over there now. We'll see you on the flip side. Of course, Mr. Tom Carpenter is here and he is our AI tech, whatever guru expert of amazingness. I can tell you that firsthand because I did interview him a while back and asked him all of these questions about these types of things, and it threw me through a loop. But he, of course, kicked his brother Dale out, so we'll get Tom and all of his expertise. And, of course, he paid his fine. So you guys have earned your gauntlet, but if you want to keep the gauntlet going, you do have to continue hitting the dono goal over here. All right. I'm going to kick it over to Tom to actually kick us off on thought process here because I figure you've listened to everybody say something and you probably have something smart to say to all of it.
Well, I will say one thing. So the picture that I use through all social media, and it's just me. I don't have a fake character name or anything. It's just Tom Carpenter everywhere. And whether I'm on LinkedIn or X or whatever, it's still the same guy. And you always see this caricature of me with my eyebrow raised, and you might have seen me do it a few times tonight. That caricature exists because it's what I do when I'm listening to someone and I hear them say something that's like, what? But I want to start before I do anything else, Sarah, because I want to, normally the Gauntlet is my go to sleep time. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I want to say to everybody, I love you all. I love Sarah. I love this community. It's scary that I find myself sometimes thinking, what would Clay say to that? Or what would Ant say to that? You know, that should freak anybody out. But here's my dream
at this point now.
Here's my dream. Someone please kick me to the backstage so I can have that experience of being kicked. I've never been kicked. I've only kicked. So kick me, please.
Do it in the chat.
$1. Kick me. And now I want to say with that, McToon, first of all, I want to appreciate you coming on. I homeschooled my kids K through 12 all the way. I know a lot of people have homeschooling views and perspectives where they think it's all this uber religious stuff and things like that. But there might be some religion involved in some of it. But my primary motivation was I wanted my kids to actually learn. And they did a pretty daggum good job of it. They're amazing kids now, all fully grown. So that's awesome. But I do want to ask, don't you think that there is amazing opportunity? Because I know I came off as this attacker against paranoid, but don't you think there's this amazing opportunity for AI now that we have an intellectual component? Because we really never had that before. An intellectual component that could take a vast amount of knowledge and gather insights from that vast amount of knowledge and then integrate with other AI capabilities that research has given us over the years. Don't you think there's a much bigger opportunity to use AI in education now than we've had in the past?
Absolutely. I'm not against that. My opening slide was listing off some of the things that I'm not against. Specifically, I'm not against, augmenting teachers with LLMs. And so I write software. I can, in my head, I've built, how you might do that for, different topics, for history or math or something. How you integrate an LLM into what they're already using on their tablets to help them. So yeah, I think that's great, but I don't think taking the teacher out of the room is part of that solution.
And I agree with you. And on that front, that's the big issue with me, because I've been a student of AI since 1986, and it hasn't been my primary work. My primary work was originally systems administration with Novell NetWare, Banyan Vines, Unix type systems, things like that in the 90s, and then Windows systems. So going way back, and software development, things like that. And for the last 15 years, mostly Wi-Fi and wireless related communications. So, but AI has always been this love of mine. In fact, I just finished developing this last week a brand new certification for the company that I run in AI. That's the big gap that I see. So back to you, Paranoid. Here's my question. You mentioned Benjamin Bloom, interesting researcher and scientist. And he also created, as I'm sure you're aware, Bloom's taxonomy, which is the different levels of learning or thinking or conceptualizing, depending on how you
remembering and understanding. And there's like 5 or 6 of them. Yeah.
And it's been updated. There's an enhanced, updated Bloom's taxonomy. There's been a lot of critique of it over the years, but it still holds pretty steady as at least a way to think about the different levels of understanding. Recent research over the last 3 years, and some of it as recent as 6 months ago, has shown very clearly that LLMs, just as one part of AI, and I grant we can integrate multiple AI components, but LLMs particularly do amazing at Bloom's taxonomy level 1, but they literally fall off a cliff at level 2. They simply, in all the research, just plummet in their ability as soon as you get to level 2, which means they're good at teaching fundamental knowledge, but they absolutely suck at teaching anything beyond that. Because they don't, it goes back to what I jokingly talked about as Dale. By the way, Dale is a real person. He is my brother. He lives in me all the time because I did grow up in West Virginia, and Danny was my dog. And he did die by a lightning strike. But so he's my alter ego that comes out now and then. But the reality is that what we know with AI is it even with all of the other integrations right now, it lacks that ability to comprehend the needs of a student and meet the needs of that student. Now, that's not to say we can't be there in 36, 48, some number of months down the road, but we're literally just not there right now, without a lot of really rapid solutions to some major problems. So how do you address that issue, the issue of going beyond Bloom's level 1, and the issue of the fact that when you look at all the history of educational research, because that's actually what I do now and have for the last 15 years. I run an adult education company. Effectively, it's an IT certification company, but we certify individuals mostly in wireless communications technology, and so I have to study a lot of what works in education. And what we know, for example, John Hattie's research of 300 million students, we know that one of the key factors in education is the dialogue that takes place in the classroom. He puts that at ranked, I believe, if I remember right, it's either number 3 or number 5. One of those is the most important things in the educational process. So how would we address that? Since we can't rely on just giving them a chat, we have to have all these guardrails around it. How do we deal with that if these security guards, and I'm kind of saying that tongue in cheek, these security guards that we have in the classroom with them are not also educated as teachers to be able to have that dialogue?
So I absolutely agree. I'm actually glad that MC Toon didn't bring this up, because it would have been just like a Achilles heel sort of argument. But that particular aspect of having a teacher in the classroom and having like that social experience. Here's another example that I think we'd be missing out on. And I know this almost sounds like a bad example, but for me, it's imperative with like the social aspect of it. And that's the slow entry into being shamed and the public humiliation that when a teacher calls on you and you don't have the answer and the class laughs, right? Or like you have to stand up at the board and it's super awkward and silent because you didn't study before. Now there's this
guys, everyone, can I have silence, please? I want to say something. Okay, so I shall begin.
I'm sorry. That was just fucking rude and stupid.
What was that?
Like Paranoid's literally in the middle of a thought process here, and you think you're just gonna jump in and it completely interrupt. And I swapped out for the next guy as it was requested in the private chat, but I don't fucking think so. No, sir. Pardon the interruption, Paranoid, if you'd like to continue.
It sounds like a radio coming in or something.
Now he's gonna have to I probably will never let them on again, just for that like plain stupidity. It's like panel 101. Go ahead, back to you, Paranoid.
So basically the point being that very real experience with public humiliation in sort of a safe, controlled environment where now you've got peer pressure to excel, even if you don't want to be there, and even if you hate the teacher and you hate the lesson and everything. People laughing at you is an incentive to like, maybe I should learn how to read. Maybe I should care what this lesson is just so I can avoid the social ostracization. That's one thing that also gets eliminated if you just straight up remove the teacher and everyone's got these individualized courses. Because again, everyone's not going to learn the same. Maybe that's good that gets rid of, but I feel that that's a valuable part of growing up and bumping into like, here's how the real world works. Here's how you interact with people. When you're talking about the Bloom's taxonomy, I don't know what the current level of it is, like what stage 2 essentially is, but it's like it's remembering, understanding, and then it gets into like analyzing and creating, which I think represents mastery. And what Bloom, I think, was saying is that every student is technically capable of mastery if they have the right resources. And the whole premise of the 2 sigma problem, the sigma, I believe, meant that it was people that had one-on-one tutoring had what was it, like 2 standard deviations above people that did not have the one-on-one tutoring. So that's what 2 sigma means. It means 2 standard deviations above those that didn't have that same approach. So I agree with you that it completely falls on its face, but only when you present a kid with unbridled access to a chat bot. But once you have guardrails that essentially know what the answer is and prevent from just giving the answer, because that's usually where the degradation, where the atrophy happens, is if I can just ask the computer for the question and it just tells me the answer, then I just fill the answer out. I don't have to actually understand it, analyze it, integrate it. So there's ways to mitigate that, but I agree that that's actually a huge problem. I would say that let's compare that to what we actually have in the real world right now, instead of an idealized version where everyone gets a great teacher and the teacher identifies this and the teacher is able to mitigate all this. There's plenty of examples where there's no AI in the classroom, there's only a teacher, and this exact same problem presents itself, and there's not a known solution, hence having decades worth of a sliding decline.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think that I actually agree with you that AI is coming in. There's no stopping it. It's going to come in, but I think at least for the next decade or more, we definitely need it to be an aid to the teachers and not a replacement for the teachers. That's just me and my summary thinking. But I will say this, the other area I think where you missed the mark is in the cost. I don't think you fully comprehend the cost. I'll just use one thing as an example of where most people, when they're looking at deploying any type of AI system, particularly based on LLMs, they miss, and that is something called the KV cache. For simplicity for everybody here, the KV cache is your context. So if you have a chat with ChatGPT and you talk to it for a while, everything that it remembers about you, that's technically called the KV cache. And that cache is for each individual using it. And so now, granted, you mentioned one option was to give every user their own dedicated computer running the LLM and the other AI components that are just for them. That's probably going to run you, if you do that for a school that has 500 students, it's going to run you somewhere around 12 to 15 grand a month in extra electric bills. So you need to find a way to centralize and share that. And if you do that, then you're dealing with a cluster of servers with multiple GPUs in each server and so forth in order to be able to handle it. That cost factor is a lot bigger than most people think. Right now, what most people don't realize about AI is right now, I said this when Sarah interviewed me last year, and it's still true today. It has not changed. AI is costing us massively more than the value that it's bringing us in the world today with the large language models specifically, that kind of AI. The companies are still not making money, and the reason they're not making money is because they can't charge as much as it actually costs to deliver the service. It's extremely expensive to do inference and computation that's required to accomplish this end goal. And then when you add in the training, it even goes out the door. I think that's the biggest weakness in your argument. I don't think it's the human teacher element. I think it's the cost is higher than you think it will need to be in order to accomplish your end goal.
I feel like this wouldn't be a fair discussion for us to have, just because I'm so jaded in fiat currency that I feel it has absolutely no value. Again, they can hold down on the print button until they've printed enough money to get whatever they want and offload that as a future tax and inflation. So yeah, and I'm just as much of a pessimist that even in this scenario where AI just augments teachers, I like that, Tom, that you brought up. Well, some teachers, they might realize, well, hell, this augments the hell out of my job. I can just kind of like kick my feet up a little bit and let the AI do its thing. I do think that's probably the first thing that we're going to see as AI naturally goes in the education system. It augments it. You're going to have these deadbeat teachers that are just like, oh, I don't have to do anything now except for some classroom management. And then that's going to have to come to a head. Although, again, someone can just hold down that money printer button and maybe the problem never gets fully solved, you know?
Is that cost?
The cost issue is not
how
as
economics
big.
works.
Is that cost the same for, like, you compared like some big AI sort of approaches, but I think Paranoid brought up an approach of using I don't know, maybe some undersized models, sure, like Gemma 27B quantized is kind of, I don't know.
Actually, I think small language models are the future. I don't think large language models are the future. I think small language models are. And you can take a small language model. Here's a great example. In my industry, in the wireless side, there's an individual who works for Cisco, Jerome Henry. He and his team developed a small language model that's literally 124 megabytes. That's how much memory it takes up. And it does better network protocol packet capture interpretation than any of the frontier models. And by frontier, I mean ChatGPT, Gemini, things like that. Small language models can do absolutely amazing things when they're perfectly finely tuned for what you want them to do. And I think a mixture of small language models could be phenomenal for educational purposes. So absolutely, I agree with you, LLM Degrader. We've got opportunities here, and we're going to see them be optimized in the next few years to really do some amazing things. No question.
Yeah, well, I was just curious if you thought the costs might be the same if we assume like these small, smaller large language models.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It will reduce the cost significantly. But that's so we're with small language models where we were with large language models in 2021. And so it's going to take us a few years, most likely, to really optimize it but it's actually happening faster because we've learned a lot of lessons with large language models already.
Yeah.
And by the way, Paranoid.
I'm sorry, Tom. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Paranoid, when I joked about you losing your job before teachers, that was kind of a mean thing, but it's actually true because programming is so structurally and semantically perfectly laid out. We know exactly what we're doing with programming code. Human language and human communication is so variable and different, and so it's easier actually to write code than it is to teach a child, and that's kind of what I was getting at there.
Alley
My only retort to this.
Go ahead.
My only retort to this is, Paranoid, you said it. They can push that fucking button and print that money and it'll just be paid back in inflation. Well, wouldn't you agree that the inflation rate now is high enough? Do we need more? Because schools or you know, pussified parents won't send their kids to school? Is it really that important?
If you're asking me, I do think it's that important, but also I don't think that the government is going to be the one that's like, you know what, we should invest a lot more in education now, unless there was some sort of kickback for it. I just think that this is actually going to be the most cost-effective solution in the short term. Like, I don't even feel like this is a debate where I'm like, hey, everyone get on board, and if we get enough people that agree, this will happen. It's almost like this is already going to be the thing that happens, and here's maybe the silver lining. And here's
so we should pussify the kids, give them a tablet or AI.
They have tablets. You're not giving them anything,
regardless whether they have a fucking tablet or not. You're pussifying the kid, not sending them to school. They have no social interaction. What you're advocating for is a computer to have feelings.
I don't think so at all. You're still sending them to school. They're still getting social interaction.
You're sending them to school, maybe in their bedroom, while they're playing Roblox and playing fucking anime.
This isn't about remote education like during COVID. This would be, you still send them to the same building.
Okay, so I've got a good one for you. My grandchildren, and yes, I have grandchildren. They go to fucking school. They're playing Roblox. They're playing fucking anime, playing with computer animated shit at 7 years old. What are they learning other than how to play Roblox and play anime and play fucking games? That's what that is what you're advocating to teach these people.
It is. No,
it
is.
And you're sick in the fucking head. You're sick in the fucking head if you think that's education. Well, it's not fucking education. I don't care if they're teaching them the ABCs 1, 2, 3s.
There is some sort of like good that comes from, for instance, playing games, right? It develops like those motor skills, and especially because like drones are our new attack mode, right?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of hand-eye coordination that comes into play between playing games and then building a strategy as well. That's another feature that's built into gameplay and so on and so forth. So there are some advantages. Do I think that we should play games all day? No, but it would be just the same as playing chess. You're just playing in 3D mode, right?
I get that, and I'm not saying that there are not some situations where learning can't be fun, right? But I think it's a very skewed reality that we are teaching that this is how we have to learn, and because, and I'm using this to be a little bit funny, but we're going to use the Wikipedia term instead of a correct term, because all this information is being pulled from every which direction. History
you have to
is
teach the
history.
kids on top of the new thing, you know.
I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I mean, we have to at some point teach the kids on top of the new thing. You know, like the world moves forward. And like the world changes, and we're going to teach them according to that world. I mean, like in this Roblox example, is that like the coding, the programming style that they like
No,
Teach the
it's a
kids
little
within school.
fucking
That's
kids
interesting.
game that these little snot-nosed bastards think is the best thing in the fucking world. And let me tell you something.
Roblox has a bunch of different avenues, right? It's like a main server hub, and then you can go off into different servers and play games.
That's what I was
But
wondering.
I did want to poke a question because we do already see issues with students utilizing AI to write their papers and essays and do homework and so on and so forth. Paranoid, would you foresee that as being an even bigger issue if now they're not only learning from AI, but then utilizing that to give them the answers per se?
Yeah, I think part of that is the same mitigation where you have guardrails that don't just straight up give answers, but I don't think there's ever going to be a full solution for straight up defeating either plagiarism or using AI. Like right now, what happens is kid uses AI to write the paper, turns it in, teacher uses AI to detect the AI, and then there's always going to be like a false positive where the teacher tells you, hey, AI wrote this. And now what's happening is the inverse, where people are writing the entire thing by hand, and then like, I need to make this dumber in a few places. I need to make a few mistakes that the AI wouldn't make just so that it doesn't hit the AI detector that the teacher's using. So I think it's on like both ends. People are misusing it, and we're never going to have people that stop misusing it. That would be part of the incremental change. Would probably be, instead of standardized tests, instead of scantrons, there would be a greater assessment of, are you integrating the knowledge in a more reasonable way? And maybe that's straying away from writing essays unless it's in like a college course. But yeah,
Okay. Well, let me point this out. If you're using AI to write your paper, I am typing a few keywords, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are you really fucking learning?
Nothing. Yeah.
Nothing. So would you say, with you not learning anything, AI would not be beneficial?
Well, I don't think I'm advocating that we replace education with being able to just tell.
Yes, you fucking did. You've been saying it all night.
I don't think that's a fair equation of what I've actually been advocating here for. The advocation is that you're
advocating because of your computer knowledge and your programming capabilities. Of course, you're going to advocate that because it makes you money. But the logic behind it is the most pathetic way to teach a child to learn anything. I said it in my opening question.
I don't agree with
that. Have AI teach me how to put an IV in somebody. Watch how that backfires in your face.
Well, again, this is centered on public K-12 education, and I just want to state that your previous example of like, what are these dumb kids doing with Roblox? Roblox has a programming language inside it. It has a full economy. There's 12-year-olds that are millionaires because they were able to create something new within that Roblox ecosystem, and whatever they did to learn how to make $1 million as a 12-year-old, I would argue far surpasses anything that teacher in that class that gave them the Chromebook was going to give them.
Okay, so how about this? How about we just put all of our little snot-nosed bastards, K through 12, in front of a computer and say, have at it?
Well, that's the opposite of what I'm advocating. I specifically—
No, that's what you're advocating for, sir. What you want is less teachers,
yes,
which creates a problem for the society and the economy, dumb fuck. Second of all, you are advocating for a computer to have this fictitious interaction by, neurons and all the other bullshit you fucking spewed out of your mouth, right? And all you want is to pacify a snot little nosed bastard. So basically, yeah, you said it. Oh, they have tablets, they have this, they have computers. Well, fuck it. Pacify the little bastards. Let them sit at home and talk to a computer screen. We can solve the whole world with AI. That's fucking pathetic. You're stupid. And I'm done.
Which kid is gonna have like better AI skills? Is it gonna and like be ready for that sort of future? Is it gonna be the kid who has no exposure to AI and is like learning how to, I don't know, write checks and, you know, fill out promissory notes? Or is it gonna be like the kid who's like playing with AI and like learning how to get into that world? Like if the future is gonna look like that, the kids should be skilled in living in that world. And that's how they'll build like intelligence and to live in that world, you know?
So my question on this is, if the AI can do it, then why do we need to do it? So if the kid needs to learn from the AI what to do, but the AI can do it, then why does the kid need to learn how to do it? If I can learn from the AI how to do it, what's the need for me to learn from the AI how to do it? The AI can do it, right? So I think what we're kind of missing here is the difference between doing something versus knowing how to do something. Okay. I look at it from the perspective of service, right? Versus production, right? Like you can train AI models how to build a production team or a production line, how to put these parts together with the computer integrated into the robotics of the system. Okay. The robotics of the system doesn't get to go away. You actually have to have that mechanical part. So because you have to have that mechanical part there, AI is not going to do everything that you need it to do. And I think in the context of teaching, it's going to end up the same way, right? Now you can hire on techs to make sure that the system works properly, the code is written properly, but at some point there's got to be a vetting to that code.
And basically, another thing, and I'm sorry to cut you off, Clay, just to build on what you're saying, is let's replace the person that's flipping the McDonald's fucking hamburgers with AI.
That's coming.
Well, that would be,
of course it is, because you're the genius that's going to build it.
We still need the robotics, but even with the robotics, you still need the inspector to come in and make sure.
Nope, they're going to come in their little fucking motorized car on their little computer screen and say, no rats, you're good.
Right.
That's what these people are advocating for.
It becomes a problem. I actually want to shift the conversation a little bit from that to, if we could, it's called cognitive surrender.
Yep.
Okay. That's the idea of giving up. Now, there's also another idea here, which is the incubation period. Okay. Human beings have what's called an incubation period where they're, painting a beautiful picture and they just give up on it, but then they come back to it later. AI simply does not have the ability to do that.
I disagree with that.
Really?
Yeah, you can be working in AI, lose interest, keep the context, and then revisit it months, years later, and pick up exactly where you left off, which is precisely something you can't do with a teacher.
You can, but the AI cannot.
Sure it can. Why would it not be able to?
Because there's so say you're painting this picture, right? And you draw a blank. They call it drawing a blank, right? So you have nothing on this picture anymore. AI, on the other hand, will continue to play the game. This is like chess, coming back to a chessboard after you've considered the value of moving which piece. The art of it, right? Now, you personally can go take a walk, watch the sky, the birds fly, all of this, and eventually you have an epiphany of what you want to continue. And this same concept works in the literary arts, okay? So when you do these things, this is a human thing. It is not something that AI can actually do. What the AI is actually doing is it's drawing from the model, okay, all of the information that it's been fed, and then coming up with a solution for that. There's no incubation period. Like the only incubation period is me asking, an hour or two later, right? I'm still involved in that, right? So I'm still considering what question I would next ask the AI.
I guess I would counter that the incubation period exists. It's just measured in the terms of milliseconds instead of days or weeks or months. And in fact, there's even something more interesting to me than that incubation period. When you take a break from the painting and you go on a walk for a couple hours or a week or whatever it is and come back to it, you might have had like, okay, here's this new direction that I'm going. In that same weeks or months or whatever it took, you could have had like 10,000 different approaches that the AI decided to take that down. No, it's not because it had like deep reflection and it saw the light hit the lake in a certain way and you're like, oh, I should add this lighting to it. But inherently, it's just detecting patterns and creating that. So really the only difference is that when you decide to remove yourself from that feedback loop, yes, the AI can continue on without you, but you can also give explicit instructions of like, okay, stop where we're at now. I'm going to go on a sabbatical. I'm going to come back. And when I come back, we're going to pick up where we left off. And I'm going to give you this extra insight. I'm not equating what the AI is creating to what a human can create, but I do think that there's analogies between the two. And that incubation period, the only difference is that, again, milliseconds versus hours.
So it requires a feed. It requires an actual feed. Otherwise, and I think you guys actually named what that feed is. It's like you got to enter more information in. Abatement, was that the correct term? Abatement, maybe.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Okay. But anyway, you're entering more.
All this AI does rely on having at least one human being, at least to start it with, to give it that initial feedback loop and determine its goals and give it its reward and its punishment scenarios. But yeah,
again,
at a certain point, they can be autonomous.
So you're saying replace all the human factor, put one in it, and fuck everybody else.
I don't know if those were my exact words.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
How would you eliminate the bias in whoever has the control of the AIs?
Open source.
I mean, that just make, like, how do you deal with the trolls then?
I would say you would open source it, and you would basically make it and to do with the trolls or whatever, the same way that either Wiki would act, where there's like a board of approved people, as much as you hate that, but that there would be a consensus as to, hey, this one worked. The same way that like a Linux a package update might go in. Someone might try and slip some malicious code into like a Linux package, and the community as a whole is like, hey, everyone, don't get this package. It's been compromised. We're looking into the issue. We're patching the hole. And this would actually work even better for these static LLM models, because if something were introduced a bias that shouldn't be there, it could be flagged before anything just like automatically downloaded it anyway. So my solutions usually embrace the chaos, not try to avoid it or prevent it from ever happening.
We embrace the chaos here. Tom Carpenter sends in the Big Ten, says, come on, $10, make me holler, kick me. Nobody loves me. Mr. Tom Carpenter's begging to be kicked off of this panel, literally begging.
I say kick him. Are we going to vote?
Somebody, no, they got to send
I am
$10.
afraid to kick him because
$10 make me holler.
Off.
No, he's asking for it. He
said
wants
Vegas.
to go to bed. He can't go to bed unless you boot him. Put the old man to sleep. East sends in 5,000 of whatever these are. Says, love you, paranoid American. If AI is more screen time for kids, that's bad to do.
I agree.
You see.
I don't think that this inherently means more screen time. Again, kids already have Chromebooks. They already have plenty of screen time. This would just be giving them something a little bit more custom tailored to them and oriented around education on that screen that they're already spending time in front of.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Sarah, were you done with that?
Nope,
okay, so let's make an AI model of anime, right? Let's make an AI model of anime. The next one, let's make it of Kermit the fucking Frog. So we've got to spend all this money to make all this stuff to custom tailor that experience to XYZ 1, 2, 3 pussified young snot-nosed bastard.
Yeah, I don't see anything
That's
wrong.
Stupid. That's the most stupidest thing that I've heard.
Why would it? So just entertain me here, though. Why would it be stupid that if you've got a kid that in this hypothetical scenario is struggling with a certain type of subject matter. And if by just simply having Kermit the Frog's visual and voice giving him the lesson plan helps them connect with the content and find it meaningful and want to engage with it, I don't see why that would be a problem. I don't see that's pussifying them. That's basically saying like, oh, you're not vibing with this like rote memorization monotone teacher. What if Kermit the Frog gave you the exact same lesson? If that teaches them, that's a net benefit to the kid, to its parents, to the school, to society at large. I would say that it's worth every penny.
What if it doesn't teach?
Go. What'd you say, Clay? I'm sorry.
So what if it doesn't teach them? What if it's actually absolutely wrong and it actually makes it worse?
Then they just fall into exactly the performance metric that we've got right now with real human teachers, and we're free to try other things.
Wait a minute, free to try something else. Okay,
get rid of the Chromebooks.
So here's
clearly didn't work.
Why the question isn't properly answered. Okay, so the teacher has the ability to adjust the teaching format to no longer use Elmo's voice, okay? He now uses the stronger voice and says, well, look, here's the thing. I know you don't understand this. It's okay, but you're going to have to understand this. If you don't understand it, you're not going to pass the grade. That's the problem here, okay? Because Elmo's voice is not going to add that sternness. That's actually what Spin is pointing out. That's what Angry American is pointing out for you, is that coddling a child, there's no discipline there, okay? He needs to understand why it is important that he has to pass this class, because that's the real world. Now, what AI does is it actually, and I see this over all of the AIs, is it says, oh, I'm sorry, I was so wrong for insulting you that way. I shouldn't have insulted your intelligence. You're really smart. You're the smartest guy ever, and I will answer you correctly. Now, I understand that security protocols can be written in for that. However, if you are writing the code to coddle them, that is not writing the security protocols for that. That is actually the opposite. That is coddling them.
So 3 points that you made to just address. First of all, I don't think teachers would be the ones saying like, let's give Elmo a try, let's give Kermit a try. It would be a self-guided, like, which of these approaches would you like to learn from the most? I would trust the kid to be able to find that path, right? I also don't agree that kids either coddled or you have to be stern with them. And if you coddle them, then they turn into pussies. And if you don't coddle them and you're stern, then they get smarter. I think everyone has a different learning style. There's some people that if the teachers are stern, then they're going to be anti-authoritarian. They're going to not learn just out of spite because they don't like that personal interaction with whoever the authority figure is.
So let's just go and put them in their safe space.
Well, some kids, if they're coddled, yeah, maybe they do turn into pussified versions. But if that pussified version now knows how AI operates and it knows math because Kermit taught them, I don't have a problem with a bunch of pussified people out being productive members of society.
And that, sir, is what is wrong with the country. You got too many pussified fucking people being coddled, put in their safe space, giving them a fucking label. Because, oh, I feel bad for you today. You're just depressed. Let's go to our safe space and we'll talk it out. Fuck you.
See, I think we're coming from two completely different perspectives, because when we're talking about these LLMs and you're like, oh, it's going to coddle you and it's going to be a sycophant.
It is.
You're like, oh, what a horrible day you've had. I'm thinking like, what if I could learn linear algebra if it were taught as if like Tolkien wrote it and it was within the world of the Hobbit or something? You're not going to get a math teacher by chance that also happens to know all of like Tolkien lore and all about the Hobbit, but you could be like, if that's the thing that makes you care about linear algebra, that's not getting pussified. What if you're like, I want you to
what do I need to know in K through 12? What the fuck do I need to know about linear algebra?
I mean, if you're
why do I know? Answer the question.
If you're an advanced,
why do I need to know about linear algebra in high school?
If you're in advanced courses, then you're gonna.
If you're in advanced courses, let's go to statistics. Let's go to statistics. How many children are in advanced courses?
It's taught in 9th grade.
I'm asking a paranoid American.
I mean, I took linear algebra in high school. I don't know what to tell you. It's not rarity. Maybe nonlinear algebra might be weird, but even that would be very impressive.
The exception is not the rule. That's his point. That's Spin's point. The exception is not the rule. These are very smart children. They get into these gifted classes. It's wonderful, but they are not the majority of students.
Correct. You take a student from the ghetto. They may or may not understand it, but you take somebody from a prominent society that is in like a charter school or a private school. Yeah, they might excel in stupid shit like that, right?
Let me use your example then. Let's say we took
Please, hold on. Sarah's got money on the screen. That's more important.
There you go. Thank you, Spin. And Tom Carpenter asked, and ye shall receive. Project Shaney did, in fact, send in the Big 10 bones and says, Tom, good show. Now get some sleep, but get the fuck out. Hashtag Vegas. There is your boot, sir. You can now officially celebrate that you have completely been booted from the Raging Tomato panel.
Can I ask him a question before he gets kicked back?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm not really going to kick him unless he really wants to be kicked.
I know. Tom, what's your thought of applications that essentially consist of SLMs for generating the inputs and maybe processing the outputs even?
Can you say that again? I missed about half of it.
Oh, I apologize. What do you think of the idea of applications that consist of chained SLMs, for example, using them for pre-processing the input, processing the input, and then the output, etc.?
Oh yeah, that can definitely be done. And in fact, this is one of the areas of research that's being heavily evaluated right now. So to put that into simple terms for everybody, basically instead of having one AI system, if you will, that's doing all the work, you're having a chain of AI systems that do portions of the work that are most relevant to what they're experts in. Just like if you could imagine, in a company, for example, you have a marketing department, you have a sales department, you have an HR department, you have an engineering department, and so forth. And you have the experts in those different departments doing what they're specially capable of. You can do the exact same thing with any knowledge set that you want. You can have that knowledge set flow through multiple different experts, each of them giving their input and giving you the resultant output. There's actually an interesting, simple way to see this right now if you use Perplexity. So Perplexity introduced a computer module about 4 or 5 months ago. It's expensive to use, but if you do have the paid $20 a month plan with them, you get, I think it's 4,000 credits, and you can see it work. So if you go into Perplexity Computer and you say, for example, research the following topic, come up with the most important things that a group of the following experts should know, and then build a slide deck and a handout and all of these things for a presentation, right? You'll actually see it working, and it will go to different subagents that it executes. And those different subagents are not necessarily all using the same model. They're using different models in order to accomplish what they're specifically good at. And then it will generate the output. And what we see from that is, if you've ever tried to do slides with Gemini or ChatGPT or something internal, it horribly sucks. But with Perplexity, when you do that, I have been blown away that it can create things that are 90% there, and you just have a little bit to add to it. So we're coming a long way in it, but it's definitely something that I think can be enhanced for the future, for sure.
That's exciting. Thank you very much, Tom.
So, Tom, can I ask Tom a question, sir? So, I just want to be clear, Tom. Are you advocating for AI to replace a teacher?
No, I hope I made that clear earlier. I think
you didn't make it as clear. I just wanted to clarify.
I think for the human element that the teacher brings into the space, which is more than just behavioral issues in the classroom. That's part of what a teacher does. There's massive research into how to do that well as an educator and so forth over the years. But from the perspective of the actual teaching, the delivery of knowledge, the validation of that knowledge and so forth, I think there are, from my view, and I could be wrong, I'm not the world's leading expert on AI, but from my view, where we're at right now, we're not at the place where we can say, yes, we're ready to replace teachers. I don't think this year, and I honestly don't think this decade. That's just my feeling on it.
Well, and I guess that's what I was alluding to. I mean, the social, economic, behavioral, emotional side of a child, and I don't know if everybody up here has children or not. I have fucking children.
10 of them.
Pardon?
10 of them. You heard me right.
I didn't know. I didn't hear what you said. I apologize.
For my own and 6 through a second marriage.
Sure. Well, what I'm saying is, we all have children then, right? So a certain aspect of socialism is done in a classroom because you're putting it's like a panel, right? You're putting a group of people that may or may not know each other on the outside of the panel verse or whatever. You're putting them into one stream, and Sarah's the teacher, right? Sarah can spank your ass and take you off, right?
That was the principal, not the teacher. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, it starts with the teacher. Okay?
But she's both the principal and the teacher here.
Right. She's both principal and the
It's totally
right?
unreplaceable too. You can't replace her.
So, and there's only so many students that come in, right? There's a social, what's the right word, Clay? There's a social factor.
Yeah.
Element factor, yeah.
Or element factor to it. You take that away and you put somebody on AI or the information super fucking highway. It takes away the plethora of other knowledge that one ought to get.
Yeah, well,
in a school.
I want to comment on that because really this is the conversation about the ought, right? Should. And when you're talking about what the interaction is here between a computer versus an actual person, you're talking, this is why I actually brought the give up factor or the incubation period, right? The idea that you have to continue with a task is not always going to be there with a human, whereas with a computer, you can program it to stop somewhere along the way, as Paranoid pointed out. But the stopping point is the end point for that algorithm, for that coding. So you've programmed it to stop at that place and perhaps ask a question, but the teacher or the human being or the child, so really two, you're bringing in competition, right? So you're looking at all of the children around you, wondering how are they going to answer this? As Tom said, when he first came up, he's like, how is Clay going to answer this? How is Ant going to answer this? That aspect right there, it can't be programmed in to teach that competition. When is it time to give up on a task? When is it time to move on from a task? That right there is something that is uniquely human. You cannot program it into an AI because, like I said, the stopping point for the break is an end point.
I want to say this might be even more controversial than the topic itself that we came here to talk about, but I do think that there is no uniquely human aspect to that. You could train enough great teachers on their classroom etiquette, and when they decide to stop and when they decide to introduce some kind of competition with enough data, you could train a model that could be better at that than a mediocre teacher. I don't think that you would ever maybe get a model that's better than the best teacher, but you could get an aggregate that would be better than if you didn't have a great selection to begin with. So I mean, like, that is possible.
Well, I'll give you
in my mind.
But here's the thing.
Hold on, Spin. I want to give another example too.
Hey, real quick, Clay, before you guys go on, I have a really important meeting at 10 o'clock. I mean, big important meeting at 10 o'clock. So that is like 8 hours and 20 minutes away for me right now. And so I am going to have to bail. I love you all very much. And I don't say that lightly. I've had conversations with Sarah about this. You guys have been with me through the hospital bed. You've been with me through a lot of things. So I appreciate everybody in this community and amazing group. Love you all. Want you to have a great night. I want to say just in closing, I think Paranoid is on a right path of thinking. I think that AI can help us solve a lot of problems in our education system. I don't think you can replace teachers. That's my summary. All right. Love you guys. Have a good night. Sarah, thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Later, Tom.
Get the fuck out.
Can I answer angry American?
Kicking you. Oh, damn it. I wanted to kick him.
What I'm trying to allude to, dude, is this, right? There are so many other factors. I'm sorry, Sarah, I didn't see you put that up there. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead. No, it's
Okay.
good. I was just putting them up there. You're good. Go ahead.
That comma's gonna drive me crazy.
The bottom line is there are so many other aspects to teaching. There are so many other aspects to the social engineering of a school system that cannot be replaced by a fucking computer. I mean, we all know, and I'm not trying to change the topic, Sarah, but I want to allude to this.
It's okay.
You put a fucking PS5 or a Xbox or a computer in front of a child. What are they going to do? That is going to be their release, if you will, right? So from 8 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock, they're going to have that release, and then they can put that tablet or that laptop away, and then they're just going to get on and do whatever they want. Where is the social interaction?
I got a question about that as well. So now I grew up, playing video games, Nintendo, PS2, all that stuff. And I happen to be pretty good at games, right? And I had brothers who were good. They weren't quite as good. So what I noticed is that when they weren't happy with the outcome of the game, that controller ended up smashed on the floor. Now, what are we going to do when the give up factor is from the child himself? And he's like, I'm done with this. I'm not paying attention to this no more. Right. And I know you're saying that, well, this is the what was it? Oh my goodness. You were saying something about how, now we need to reevaluate the student and where they need to be placed and all that. But what I'm saying is that those students don't need to be placed elsewhere. They actually need to learn the material, and the teacher having that human factor and understanding why the give up factor comes in and all of that. They have the ability to recognize when a student is just completely frustrated with work. Now, yes, some teachers are shitty and don't actually take action in that time, but that would be a replacement of the teacher themselves, not to just give it over to AI, because the AI can't recognize that.
And the other thing I'm going to point out to that too, you said the administrators need to govern what the teacher is teaching. You said that.
I don't know if I said those words. No.
Clay?
Sorry, I was waiting for it.
Did he not say that the materials that the teachers are teaching, whether appropriate or not, is the teacher, and there are administrators that oversee the teachers?
Curriculum, right.
Yeah, not administrators, but like a curriculum, like a school board that already does that now. I'm describing how the system works right now already.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the description of the description. In some states, the teachers teach. I want to be very careful, Sarah, because this is right. I think you know where I'm going with this, but they're teaching inappropriate things to impressionable beings.
Yeah, call it ideologies. Yeah.
Yeah, ideologies, right? The administrators are saying it's okay for the teachers.
In some places, and then in some places they're saying it's not.
Right. So here in the great free state of Florida, if that shit would ever be taught, do you realize the ramifications of the state government versus the federal government? They would cut your funding. They would close your school here in the state of Florida without a blink of an eye or just one swipe of a pen. So we're going to train a computer, or we're going to tell a computer, because that's what it is a computer, that it's okay for us to teach ideological bullshit, because that's what it is bullshit, to these children.
But that's already happening with human teachers.
Well, and that's my point. The administrators are saying that it's okay that you do this. To a logical mind, why in the fuck do I need to know that it is okay that I can switch my gender, or I can say that I identify as a fucking cat?
Let's not get off topic, please.
It's on topic, because the AI models that he is proclaiming will be okay to do it.
No, I would argue that you would have more control over restricting exactly what the AI model can teach, more so than a human being. Because a human being, you can tell them, hey, you're not allowed to do X, Y, Z. And they're like, all right, I won't do X, Y, Z. I'll sign my name. I do the oath. And then as soon as they're unsupervised, hey, kids, guess what? X, Y, Z. So, I mean,
those people should not have a job.
Well, I agree, but I feel like you're just you're describing a problem that already exists with humans, and then just saying, and that might happen with the AI too.
But you got a human teaching it. That's what I'm saying, moron. You got a human being training or typing code or whatever the fuck you want to call it, saying it's perfectly okay. You're still having the human factor.
Yeah, we're not going to get rid of the
point is, why take the human factor away from impressionable snot-nosed bastards? And putting a computer in front of them.
Speaking of snot-nosed bastards, Spin, let's do it very quickly. They've got less than a minute and a half to finish the grift. They owe 7 more. Tell them what to do, quick.
If you don't want us to go, you know where we're going to go if you don't hit the dono. And I still would like to fuck with this dude. So let's keep the money coming in.
Ooh. And go.
Time to answer?
Hold on, we're grifting.
Okay.
Just want to thank everybody who's donated tonight. It's awesome. It helps keep things going. If there's anybody out there still thinking about it, this is the time to make a good decision and invest in the show, because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you. You got less than a minute. Alley Cat, tell them.
We got a whole nother chapter of stuff to get into. I haven't even started yet. And there's a whole bunch of things that we need to get into still. So get those donuts coming in, because they got to go.
Perfect. Thank you. For the win, go.
Help us out. Keep the show going. Keep us alive. And don't forget #Vegas.
Hell yeah. #Vegas. Paranoid Grift.
If you're up right now, it's almost 2 a.m. Eastern. There's nothing else that you're going to be spending money on at 2 a.m. in the middle of the night that's better than putting a donation towards this show. So whatever you were about to buy on Amazon, or whatever you're about to pay to Goon to, just put that money towards this instead.
Goon. I love it. Clay, they got 10 seconds.
Love it. Hey, you guys know exactly what the fuck you're supposed to be doing. I don't know why you didn't do it back when Tom was on the panel. Big thank you to Tom, because the man's really funding this shit, and I want to see you guys doing the same goddamn thing. And I agree with Alley Cat. I want to hear his opinions on this shit. You need to donate so we can hear his shit.
Absolutely. And since I failed to inform you that your dono goal was running out of time, I'll give you 5 more minutes for that. And then after that, we'll go into the full 15-minute hit it or quit it, $100 dono or we bust. All right. And let me just do this real quick and make sure. Denizen, is that you, sir?
Yes, it is.
There he is.
Okay. I just want to make sure because I wasn't sure. All right. I'll hand it back to you again, chat. You got 5 more minutes to either get those 7 donos in. If not, you're going to owe 10 more. All right. Back to you.
And without true style, yes, it angers me that everybody just wants to replace the human factor. And we're going to, and I still say, we're going to turn the teachers there. Yeah, we're going to have less of them. We're going to turn the teachers into security guards so they don't destroy the equipment, or we're going to get tutors that the government's going to pay for to come in and help, and it's just going to create more and more and more and more and more inflation. Yeah, you're right. Some fucking dude can sit there and hold that button on the printer and print that money.
Speaking of printing money, number 1, shout out to Crack Baby Go with the big 5 says, here's to tomato. Oh, welcome back, Crack Baby Go. It's good to see you again. Tom Carpenter loves this topic. So he was so excited because this is his world. So he's not done listening. We're going to put him to sleep tonight with sweet dreams of AI discussions and debates. So he sends in the big 70 over on the Cash App to fulfill the dono goal. And he says, my final punishment to you all. So you got yourself 1 more hour. Don't let it happen again, maters. Mr. Tom Carpenter is done donating for tonight. I'm making that rule. He's pretty much sponsored this entire show, which makes sense because it is, again, his favorite topic. So I have reset the dono goal. You've got another hour, but I would love everyone to throw tomatoes into the chat, say thank you to Mr. Tom Carpenter, and just to hashtag Vegas the whole way through the chat for like the next few minutes. Because
okay, Tom Carpenter, I didn't mean get the fuck out. Okay, I'll take that back.
Fair enough. Back to you guys.
I want to just give one other example to something that you mentioned earlier, Angry American, and then I promise we should probably hear what Alley Cat has to say. But I made the example of like linear algebra being taught by like Tolkien, whatever, and you were like, "Who's ever going to use that?" Here's an actual practical example. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the TV show The Wire, but in the 4th season, it entirely focuses on.
What the fuck does that mean, Sarah?
What's that?
I was trying to look at the mics.
I can hear Sarah. I can barely hear you.
No, somebody's like mic just went off or something, but you're good.
Oh, okay. All right.
If anyone's ever seen the TV show The Wire that was on HBO, but the 4th season was about inner city schools in Baltimore. And there was one, and this was written by a guy named Ed Burns, who was a public school teacher in Baltimore. And this was derived from his personal experience. But maybe a better analogy about like, don't pussify the kids with Kermit and Elmo or whatever, right? So the example was that a girl was trying to do her homework, and it was like new math. A bus starts with 8 passengers and picks up 4 and then drops off 2 and does this one, and she can't figure out the answer. And someone comes up to her and they're like, all right, think about it like this. You got 25 sacks, 2 customers come up, buy 2 each, and then another 3 come up, and then you have to go and re-up your supply on 10 more. And she gets the math right instantly. It's like, oh, 15. And they're like, well, how come you can't add up the numbers when it's like people getting on and off a bus? But if we're talking about dealing drugs, now all of a sudden you know the math inherently. And the answer, well, her answer was like, because if the count's wrong, then they kill you. But really, this is like, if it were reframed in a way, let's say that hoodlum that you were talking in the inner city school, the ghetto kid, well, maybe now he doesn't relate to kids getting on and off the bus. But if you can have an AI tailored discussion where now all the math is centered around dealing drugs, because this was kind of your example, now that math becomes relevant and now they're actually learning. So I think that that's just another example without like the pussified Kermit Elmo.
Okay, so what you're advocating for is how many sacks does Johnny have? Take 3 away, how many sacks does that leave? So we're going to tailor it to the ghetto. We're going to tailor it to a prominent way.
Yes.
Again, you're pussifying children. You are pussifying the learning system. Listen, bro. I remember, and I will end with this on this topic, and then Alley Cat, whatever, or whoever. I remember going to school, having to come home and put book covers on my 9 books that I had to carry in a backpack or a satchel or sack, whatever, right? And I actually had to go and I had to open that motherfucker and learn something.
2 feet of snow uphill both ways. I get it.
No,
Yeah.
No. Well, I lived in Pennsylvania. Yeah, I can talk about, snow, right? But we had buses. Okay. The point I'm trying to make is if we used AI for everything, which that's what you're advocating for because it's going to line you up.
I'm not an absolutionist about that. No. I didn't say everything. I'm talking
You
about.
said to replace the teachers with Walmart greeters, dude. Come on.
That's what I'm saying. You are an absolutionist to it because it's going to help you and benefit you. But I bet you, if it wasn't going to benefit you, you wouldn't be advocating for it. That's just normal social science. Where I'm going with this is we should just replace everything with the computer, let the computer do the work. We're not learning anything because we can say, hey, Google, what's 2 times 2? We already do it. I'm saying a child would do that, not me. I know what 2 times 2 is, and I'm damn sure and guaranteed it is 4. What I'm saying is the advocation to push a computer on very impressionable kids at whatever age is not teaching them a damn thing.
But hell,
It's
teachers ain't teaching shit either these days. So hell, what's the difference?
I'm with you on that point, bro.
I mean, so at this point, what's the difference if the teachers aren't teaching them anything and what you say the computers? But to me, I learn better solo on a computer than I will with the teachers, just because teachers they bore me. So you know what? That's kind of redundant thing that you actually said right there.
Crack baby, I'm saying in a school that has 500 children, you might be that
pretty much my town.
What?
I said pretty much my town where I live at.
Okay, well, wherever your town is, right? What I'm saying is you can't take statistics from one school to say, hey, this person's going to learn better on a computer. This person's going to learn better out of a book. But if you take those other options away and you say, this is how you will learn.
Yeah, but just doing it without computers is kind of stupid because the fact that like some kids don't learn perfect.
There were no fucking computers when I was going to fucking school.
No shit, and you're not in fucking school no more, are you, motherfucker?
No.
Right.
No fucking shit, huh? All right, so times change. Times change, right?
I'm Cal.
Common sense says.
Don't you move with the times? Don't you move with the fucking times?
There's no such thing as common sense.
Well, obviously not.
Don't you think that people probably could find their way around before maps? But once we wrote that shit down, it's like, oh, fuck, if it makes my life easier, why wouldn't I utilize that asset, right?
Because we're simplistic monkeys.
So then let's just replace everything with a computer. Let's
I
shut
didn't
down
say
all the
that.
libraries.
I never said that.
Let's shut down and stop making fucking paperback books. And
I don't want that.
I think it's time to take your wheelchair off the fucking charger. Calm
Shut
down
the
real
fuck
quick.
up,
It's
crackhead.
overheating. So,
you know, every time he comes up on a panel, we fucking argue over dumb shit about my fucking chair. Fuck you.
oh.
Disavow.
You slid in your chair, huh? You got to slid back up in your chair. You got to have you get back up in your chair.
You want to come over and pull me up, motherfucker? Shut up.
Wheelchair
no.
wars continue.
But also, a great American, I'm like, that's a great point where it's like, okay, Google Maps for me, your wheelchair for you. Computers in many different forms exist in our lives in ways that like assist us. That doesn't mean replace everything with computers, you know?
Yeah, like people still write checks nowadays.
You know what, Connecticut? That reminds me, when my aircraft aluminum chair was made, it was made by a computer. Because a computer measured my body. It is tailored to my body.
Right.
I wish they didn't put no wheels on it.
So a computer's an asset. That doesn't mean
You know what, Ho?
All right. Awkward silence, except for whoever's got the chirps, the grasshoppers chirping in the back. It does sound beautiful.
The point is, you can't just advocate to change the whole learning system because somebody wants to sit at home or, you know, sit in front of a computer all day.
They're already doing that.
You know what?
It's already happening. What you're describing and complaining about is literally what's happening right now with human teachers and children without AI being part of the solution.
Yeah, you want to know why? It was back in 2020 when that shit started. You really want to get to the crux of it? Back in 2020,
way before that.
Backstage, we've got Zers and Orthodox Guy hanging out. Get some new voices on the panel. Let's have some fun. Back to you.
Back in 2020,
can we hear from Alley Cat? He's been up here a long time, hasn't had the opportunity to
Sure.
say anything, brother man.
Sure.
Thanks, appreciate it, Clay. Did that to me? So this was touched upon a couple times, but I'm not sure it's actually been dealt in depth. The idea, the point being, is that LLMs are not good at a lot of things. Like there are definite limitations to LLMs. Like you're not going to teach an LLM to do driver education. You're not going to teach an LLM to run a lab, right? So you can't get rid of teachers.
Well, no, that's not it at all, because LLM is one of thousands of different types of models that would fall under the AI umbrella. Go ahead.
So you're basically saying we're going to get Tesla Drive to teach our children how to drive cars, right? That's your solution.
But I'm saying that LLM definitely is not an all solution. It sucks at science, it sucks at math, but there are a plethora of other models that are specifically made to be good in certain little niches. So it would be the same thing as saying, like, just because I advocate that aspirin might be good, you're like, oh, if I, get my arm cut off, if I get AIDS, does that mean I can take aspirin? No, but that doesn't mean that aspirin doesn't have some sort of value to it. But if something more acute happened, you'd go to an acute specialist and deal with that in a different manner, the same way that it would be in education.
Okay.
So what are the two solutions? What are the solutions to the two problems I just brought up?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
What are the solutions to the two problems I brought up? The two specific ones. Let's not talk in generalities.
One of them being that the LLM wouldn't be able to teach math and science. Is that one of the?
No. How do you teach driver's ed? How do you teach laboratory science?
Well, so for example, driver's ed if I go to how I learned driver's ed, I learned on a simulator from the 1950s that had a film reel projection, and the wheel didn't actually change what you saw on the screen, the brake pedal, the gas, none of that had anything going on except for that it was recorded so the teacher could see if you like hit the brake when you were supposed to, hit the gas when you're supposed to.
Damn.
As long as you passed that simulator, you got your learner's permit and you were out on the roads. So I mean,
I learned
okay.
how to drive.
You owe it
I
as
learned
mother.
how to drive
thing
from
I've ever
playing-
heard.
I learned how to drive from playing GTA
Yeah, there we
1,
go.
2, and 3.
Icon, honestly. I was
No.
I never got to kill the hooker
down
though.
for you about driver's ed. Can I break it down for you and add to what you were saying? Let's just get one of those self-driving cars, and there's a HUD or a heads-up display. It says, "This is how you make a left turn. Watch. The next one is yours."
Why the fuck you need a car that tells you that?
When you run
unaffordable,
into
unaccessible to all Americans, debunked.
when you make that next left turn, you fuck it up.
Who has the
It's
noise?
You make
okay.
another left
Fucking
turn.
candy bar. Do better next time.
Alcoholic, sir.
Who has
That
the
makes
fan
no
that keeps coming on?
sense.
I want to know.
What does
I
it?
want to know who it is that continues to stay mic'd and let their fan run. Who is doing that?
Crack baby.
Yeah, ho.
I don't know who's doing
Oh,
that.
that.
Fuck you, bitch. I'll steal your wheels.
I was the crickets. I'll take responsibility.
There
My
goes
window was
again.
open. I shut it. I'm like,
I liked the crickets.
it made the silences really awkward. It was
Okay,
like,
never mind. Sarah likes it. Fine.
Well, the point is, we should just let a computer teach us everything. That's what you're advocating.
no, everyone is saying the exact opposite.
No, I'm
And we-
talking about the paranoid American up there.
I don't
We
agree
should
with-
just
with
make an
your
algorithm for
presentation.
everything.
He just said, maybe you're frustrated, so I'm like, you're having trouble like interpreting exactly what I'm saying.
Oh,
He
I'm
said, "I
not
disagree
having
with that."
any trouble, sweetheart. Trust me.
He said, I disagree with that verbatim.
He has a
and
lot
then
of
you said
trouble.
3 different times, you're saying this. And he said, no, I'm not saying that. And you keep harping on that point. I'm like, I think you might have dementia or something, sir.
I don't want to remove humans from the classroom. I wanted to decouple the teacher from having to play 50 different roles to now the one thing that the kids are there to do, learn, that gets
security
offloaded
guard.
onto AI, and all the other human interaction, discipline, behavior modification, the mentorship, that stays human. There's still a human connection. There's still social building. In fact, there's even more of it because right now, none of that gets to happen in a productive way since the teacher is doing that so that they can get back to the teaching. So like I'm advocating the exact opposite. I don't want to replace everything with computers. I want to replace one thing, the one thing that matters the most, and the rest of it can be human.
Yeah, and I actually understand that. I kind of picked up on that. It's the same concept as what you guys kind of agreed on the debate is like the integration part, right? Integration. So not that the teachers are actually being replaced by a computer, but that the teacher is probably going to fulfill a different role, which is essentially just childcare or policing the classroom.
Well, I'd say fire the teacher because they're going to be overqualified for what we actually need them for.
So you're advocating to remove the fucking teacher.
Yeah,
that's the whole premise of this debate. Yes.
Yeah. So then that
Go
becomes
back to my point.
That becomes the problem of essentially the human aspect, right? You literally run into that problem every single
You
time.
still have humans in the classroom to deal with human problems.
No.
Yeah, Miss Raging Tomato, my computer won't turn on, or my app won't open. Oh, honey, let me fix it, and then you go back to the
Shut
computer.
up, Spain. Just hook up your wheelchair to it and you can just keep on rolling around till you.
Class will be suspended for 15 minutes while we download updates.
The human aspect that I'm talking about is not just having a human in the classroom. The humanizing aspect. Maybe that's a better way to say it. The humanizing aspect, okay? The children are no longer having a human teach them. They are having a robot teach them. Having a dog teach them might actually be more beneficial than having a robot teach them because you've actually got an interaction with a living organism. So when you're saying moving away from that that part, I'm okay with the integration. But if you get rid of the humanizing aspect, you actually, okay, this is the three things. Well, actually, I'm just going to lay it down as abstract. The abstractness. I can tell you the way I feel about something, and I can actually write that down. I can paint a picture to express how I feel. The teacher can do that as well, and we can communicate back and forth on our actual feelings about that sort of thing. And that's where the arts come in. Okay, I agree with the integration when it comes to mathematics and history and only those things that are in the curriculum. But art cannot be artificially generated. I know that we're sitting here saying, well, you know, the concept of the art is artificially generated. No, sir. No, sir. Not even in the slightest bit. Okay. When we were talking about the break that the human takes, the reason that the break that the human takes is so that he can achieve some abstract thought. When he comes back to his work, he's not bringing the same exact concept that he had before, which is exactly what the artificial intelligence is doing. It's bringing the exact same intelligence that he had 0.2 seconds ago.
Plus, wouldn't it make our kids less emotional too? Because the fact that they're not dealing with a humanly person every day, the fact that they would just be less emotional in general. So why would we want our kids to be a robot-like person when we want them to still learn from a human but get assistance from AI at the same time? You can use it as a tool just like I use a hammer as a tool at the same time, but just don't let it take over.
That was another point that I was pointing out.
The pressure applied is very important, right? The stress applied is very important. If you do not have a reason why you're doing it, there's nothing to go forward on. And that's the human. The human applies pressure. The AI does not. It just simply gives you the answer. It
Yeah, but if you only got just an AI teacher and not a human teacher, there's still some type of connect you have to have with a teacher or whatnot. It's not like, what the...
Correct, yes. You need
And so that's what I'm saying. That will make the kid a little bit less human, a little bit more robotic on the way they think. And not saying it's going to be a good or a bad thing.
Because AI will teach you how to do a thing versus the question of why to do it. This is really...
We have retarded people nowadays. And still, we've always had retarded people. Let's be real.
Gee, sometimes I really wonder about the IQ level of the average American. Considering
Let's be real.
There are 10 people on my panels at all times, and I really begin to question the average IQ. And don't forget, Zers and Orthodox Guy are hanging backstage waiting. If you want to get them up here, send in 10 bones, boot someone else, and put them on here. Paranoid is the only one you can't boot. Go ahead.
So the thing I think about is the question versus the answer, right? The Socratic method, as they call it, right? So the Socratic method is the human mind asking the questions of why, how, but also specifically why. And there's nothing in the computer model that, unless it's programmed in there already, it's already set as to a reason for why, which is a human experience.
I disagree with that premise. Okay. A computer can do the Socratic method. The Socratic method is just asking questions instead of telling answers. It's asking you questions so that you come across the answer on your own, or at least perceiving it to
Which
be on your
would
own.
help them program themselves and in general.
But the computer cannot generate the conditional answers, right? It can only produce the... No,
why not?
Because the computer's not going to come up with the wrong answer. It's only going to come up with the right answer. We need to know what the wrong answer is.
I'm not going to say that now. It ain't going to come with the right answer every time.
AI is very good at coming out with
That's bullshit to say that. Come on, Clay.
So
You know
there was
better.
an article produced recently. I don't know if you guys...
Up with the wrong... Here's why it comes up... Go ahead, Kel.
Sorry, Clay. Sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you. But
Well,
basically,
okay.
there was an article... Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Cal.
Well,
go ahead,
yeah,
Cal.
please,
go
Kel,
ahead.
please.
No, go ahead, Clay.
Cal.
Cal, go.
Okay, sorry. There was an article that I saw recently where someone had programmed an AI like bot to basically do this thing over and over again until it gets a certain result. It was like marketing something, and when it couldn't get the result that it was looking to obtain, it wrote like a bad article about the person that made the AI bot. I don't know if you guys saw that, but it's because the AI was programmed to do this thing like to a specific point, and so it literally is like, okay, I'm going to accomplish this, and when it couldn't, it writes like a slanderous article, which was not like in the initial plans or whatever. So I'm like, you're right, where it's like it's just going to spit out a correct answer, and if there's a reason why you didn't get to that answer, it's not going to tell you why. It's going to just keep going to a detriment. That's all.
Sometimes you have to question it too, and have to even say, "Are you sure about this?" And then be like, "Oh, well, now that I think about it, oh yeah, it's actually this and this and this and this." Like, come on now. Sometimes you have to question it. It's based off of the information that it is sourced by.
Previous
If they didn't,
conceptualization is there. It's in the programming. However, new information to be produced, actual answers from a human perspective, is not there.
I disagree, because again, you can augment any model. But by the time that you went on a walk and came back, you could have a system where that AI is fine-tuning itself and looking at new artwork I hadn't seen before, new magazine articles I hadn't read before, just like you, right? Like, you're going to wait until you see something novel, or you see some new art approach or new use of lighting in your coloring, and then you might adapt that into your own system. So the same way that you learn new things, AI